other half of the House that average people find fairly boring. I, of course, do not. It has to do with providing leadership in the space for strategic planning and assessment regarding the broad umbrella of diversity, equity, and inclusion. And it's under that umbrella that I engage planning in this space with the university and participate with university strategic planning efforts. And I also wanted to share with you an update regarding the results for the Penn State Community Survey. That was administered in the spring for 5 weeks in February and March. We have results that are going to be shared with the public on or around September 8. Those are going to be by a dashboard that anyone is able to access. And I really, really hope UPUA digs into that and uses that evidence to help set agendas for the coming months. So stay tuned for that dashboard and for communications via Penn State News. The other thing I wanted to quickly share with you, one participant can share at a time. Okay, sorry. I've only been Zooming for 6 months. So I'm not sure if you're familiar or have seen this in other areas. I am sharing right now a SharePoint site that the Office of Educational Equity has stood up, Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Resources. It contains research. I clicked on the research tile just to show you what this is, a sampling of curated resources by topic. So if you were interested in investigating belonging and inclusion, there are resources that are available to you. This is for all employees and students. We can also hop to implicit bias, which has been a hot topic for a couple of years. And you can see that we've also had a multimedia treatment to some of these topics. So we have podcasts and videos, as well as organization reports and other links. So hopefully, oh, you know what? I'm going to put this direct link in the chat. And I'm going to hand it off to Alina.
Thank you, Sonia. That was very quick. So I think mine will actually might be even quicker. I just wanted to first say thank you to Lexi and everyone for having us. This is obviously a very important and very urgent area of work, not only for Penn State, but I think for all of us as a community. So as often happens when students return to campus, it's a lot of different people coming together. So I just wanted to share with you, I'm going to share my screen, the Report Bias website. So you can find this on the Educational Equity website. It's equity.psu/report bias. I'll also put a link directly to this in the chat in a little bit. But just wanted to make sure you were all aware of the opportunity and really the responsibility that if you experience, witness, or hear about a bias-motivated incident that occurs on campus or also in the community that impacts students in particular, but also faculty or staff, we encourage you to please report the incident to us. We will address it in a myriad ways, depending upon, of course, what the situation requires, and also, of course, following the guidance and needs of the people who are targeted by it. So it is an online form. You can submit your name if you wish to be contacted about the incident, or you can also submit the incident anonymously if you're more comfortable with that. But you please share this with other students. Every once in a while we'll hear, I didn't know that I could do this. So please help us and get this information out there. They can also, of course, contact us directly if they wish, but the form is a helpful tool. Thank you.
Thank you both for presenting. So I'll open the floor for questions if there are any. Again, you can use the raise your hand feature in the participants tab if you do. Chair Rodriguez.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for taking the time to be here with us. It was extremely informative and absolutely essential to discuss with everyone in this room so we can act as better advocates. My name is Najee, and I'm the chair of UPUA's new Justice and Equity Committee. So my question is really directed to either one of you or both, whoever wants to answer. I'm just really curious. And you'll be receiving an email from me soon, but in the grand scheme of things, in the context of the ability of UPUA and what we can do to really advocate for underrepresented communities, to really act as change makers. What do you see this new committee doing in terms of collaboration with you and just advancing just the general interest of groups that for so long have not been adequately represented in the UPUA and Penn State in general?
Sonia, are you waiting for me to respond? Okay. Well, I will start actually just by repeating something that Dr. DeLuca Fernandez already mentioned, which is after the results of the community survey I released, is to really go through that. I've seen a sample of it. It's not quite complete yet, but I think there's a lot of different ways that you can look at the data, and you can break it out by students to really see what are the experiences of students. And I think some of it is going to be for UPUA officers to educate yourselves about not only what you hear and know about students' experiences, but also what others are experiencing, and then coming up with those initiatives. I think Sonia and I are both available and would want to talk with you about your ideas. It's helpful too if you do a bit of homework first of what's already happening. Penn State, as you know, is a very large university across the Commonwealth. So there's so many different facets and organizational structures. And so a lot of it will just be having a tiny bit of patience, I think, in terms of having those conversations, not only with UPUA, but also with Ccsg, thinking about the other campuses as well. And then what are some concrete, tangible things that are within the purview of UPUA to advance? And also, what are your big dreams and goals that then partnering with faculty, staff, and administrators would be helpful?
All right, I'll keep moving down the queue. Representative Bose.
Hi, I'm Erin Bose at large. Thank you, Sonia and Alina, for coming in. That was all very great information. My question is, I know that something that UPUA and a lot of different organizations and students in general have been pushing for the past couple of years is mandatory university-wide diversity and inclusion training for both students and faculty. And I was just wondering, has your office made any advancements over the summer, or are pushing towards that in any way?
Sure. I'll start, and I want to be totally transparent. I am not in favor of mandatory diversity tests or training, and I'll talk about why a little bit. First of all, it's not effective in creating impacts that a lot of us want to see. And primarily that impact is it has no impact on the recruitment, retention, or advancement of employees of minoritized identities. It, in only very limited situations, has shown any potential to impact the climate of a place, and particularly with something as large and diffuse as Penn State. Something that is mandatory, perhaps online and an hour, I think actually has the potential to do more harm than good. There, my bias is exposed. That being said, I also want to let you know that I am participating in the President's Select Commission, and part of the conversation we're having in that group is the mandatory diversity training. I also found out just this morning, you might already know this, that the Affirmative Action Office is taking the lead on implementing mandatory training for employees, and they will be creating an advisory group in the coming weeks to investigate that. So I hope that educational equity is involved. If for no other reason, I think we need to be very, very clear on the objectives and the outcomes, measurable outcomes that we hope to have with mandatory training.
Thank you so much, Sonia and Alina, for coming and giving your special presentation today. If you'd like to stay and listen to our General Assembly meeting, feel free, but if you have a night in front of you, feel free to log off as well, but thank you for coming.
Thank you.
All right.
Good night.
Thank you. Good night.
All right, we'll keep moving on. So next is Open Student Forum. Is there anyone here for Open Student Forum? If so, please raise your hand in the Participants tab so that you can be recognized. All right, seeing none, we'll keep moving on. Now we will hear a report by the President, President McKay.
Hello, everyone. I hope that you are doing well and staying safe and healthy, and that your families are too. As I mentioned in my convocation speech, this has been a really, really trying time for every single one of us, myself included. And I want you to know first and foremost that we as the UPUA, as your president, as, well, I'm not your committee chairs, but your committee chairs, your executive directors, everyone here is here for you. We are in every way a representation of the student body. You serving as individual parts of that larger wheel help us do that. But if one part of the wheel is slacking or isn't able to put out as much as you might think, let us know. The truth of it is that we've all been slacking in one way or the other. And so the last thing I'd want you to think is that in returning from these summer months that you haven't been doing enough. Shake that from your heads. It's not the case. We're all doing as much as we can with everything going on. And I'm incredibly proud of all of the work which you've been able to accomplish this past summer. Thank you for that. I'm incredibly proud to work with you. You might have seen, just to wrap it up, to keep time going, I just sent out an email with executive reports to the General Assembly. In there are very important things which have happened this past summer. As I discussed, obviously we have quite an expansion of the executive branch with the Office of the President being created and the Department of Civic Engagement. Those are new roles within the UPUA that I'm excited to see brought on, some of who are here tonight. And there's also been a lot of discussion as to redesign and refitting and reformatting not only the organizational structure and how we go about reaching out to students, especially first-year students, but even physically here in the office in 314 Hub. So if you have the time, please read through that report. I would be happy to take any questions on it as well. And I would hope that anyone who might have questions outside of this or who just wants to frankly get a look around the office, come and check it out. We're up here at 314 Hub. As of right now, the policy is that the steering, the cabinet, and the executive, the chief officers, if you will, of every branch have swipe access to the office. So if you need something out of it, please let us know. We'll get it for you and show you around. Great to be back with each of you today. Are there any questions?
Are there any questions for President McKay?
Yeah, actually, I have a question. What is it? I was talking with Rachel Choromansky, and she told me about a first-year council position that might be open. What is it? How's that looking? Is the application done for that yet?
Actually, could someone yield him time? So I'll also say this. So with General Assembly meetings, this usually is floor time, and that means representatives can speak, but I'm also seeing 3 people yielding you time. So President McKay, if you'd be able to answer that question.
Well, Brandon, I'm glad to see that you have thrice the amount of time that any one person needs, so that's good. Thank you to those reps. First year involvement, there's a lot of ways to get involved this year. As I mentioned in the report, first year council is something that is going through a bit of a facelift, if you will. There have been a lot of problems within it. First year council's retention rate, especially students of color leaving the organization for feelings of not necessarily being involved from the ground up or feeling very welcome from the beginning. That said, there will be roles that open up for first-year students, especially that are designed for first-year students, and encourage mentorship and collaboration with current members of all branches over the next few weeks. So in many ways, we're still more or less tidying up before we open our doors as wide as we'd like to over the next few weeks. But I'd be more than happy to send you even more information once some of those roles open up.
Are there any other questions for President McKay? All right, seeing none, we'll now move on to my report. As President McKay has mentioned, he has sent our reports in the email, so I'm not going to keep this long, but simply that we're all in this together. This is a year that I don't think any of us have ever seen in our lifetimes. I don't think our parents have seen it in their lifetimes. So just know that if there's anything that President McKay or I or anyone in this assembly can do for you, please know that we are all resources. If there's anything that I can help in a personal matter, I'm always here. If it's more academics or literally anything, just know that I'm a resource and I'm always available. I'm pretty accessible by phone, so if you ever need to reach out or through email, I usually answer my email a lot, but just know that you have a family behind you and you have people supporting you, because this is not an ideal time. And I know a lot of people have heard those words unprecedented, but this is the most unprecedented time that we've been in, and we're all just trying to do our best. So just keep that in mind. Don't be hard on yourself. Do the best that you can. And please also remember to look out for yourself, because especially both with your physical and mental health. With that, my report is in that email that President McKay sent out. Again, please look those over. There's really important updates in there, as well as the work that we've been doing over the summer. We just don't want to take 25 minutes in this call alone for those reports, so please take a little read at them. And yeah, are there any questions for me? All right, seeing none, we'll keep moving on to the liaison/affiliate reports. If you are a liaison or an affiliate and you have a report, please raise your hand in the participants tab so I can recognize you. All right, Tommy Bennett.
Hi, I'm Tommy and I'm the liaison for PAC, and I'm just here to give an update on what we've been doing to help make the performing arts community as safe and as commutable as it can be. And so what we've done is we've created COVID-specific guidelines for varying performing arts groups, like the dance groups and like the a cappella groups, to help guide them in their journey to creating virtual plans for the entire fall semester. In addition, we've updated all our contact sheet, our master contact sheet, with all current and up-to-date information with the presidents and executive boards from all the various performing arts groups. In addition, we've created group meets with the social media chairs for each arts group to ensure that each group can advertise themselves as best as they can, as the virtual advertising is the only way they'll be able to contact new members. And then lastly, we are gearing up for our common audition with our a cappella groups, as they will all be virtual and video submission based.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions for Tommy at all? All right, we'll keep moving on. Thank you. Justin Sacchi for CCSG.
Hello, I'm Justin Sacchi. I'm CCSG's executive liaison. I'm going to give a quick brief report. CCSG this summer just introduced our first summer council, which we held. We were talking a lot about return to campus for the Commonwealth campuses. We were advocating for more space for students, and we were advocating for everyone to practice normal social distancing and preventative measures to stop the spread of COVID-19, both at home and at the campuses as well. We're also fighting on the sustainability front. We have a strong team who's working to make sure our Commonwealth campuses are working to be as sustainable as possible. And we are also working to find better preventative measures in the future.
Thank you, Justin. Are there any questions for our CCSG liaison at all? All right. Representative Shi, do you have a question or is it a report on behalf of ISC?
It's more of a report on ISC, basically. Is that right now we are notice a issue is that international students found that it's quite hard, to get access to some textbooks which are specifically required by the professors and actually written by the professors. So there are no other ways for them to get a hold of the textbook other than the PSU bookstore. But many students are right now in their home countries, so it would be very hard for the bookstore to have the books shipped to their physical locations. And also many professors are requiring attendance, but students have time differences, and especially those students in China, India, and Japan and Korea, they have basically 12 hours, 11 hours of time difference. So it would be really, really hard for them to go to their class on time. So it would be good if we can work for attendance forgiveness and bring to the university, because quite right now students are really feeling hard of keeping track of classes, and some are even consider withdrawing this semester. Yep, and that's my report.
Thank you, Representative Shi. All right, are there any questions for Representative Shi? All right, seeing none, are there any other liaison or affiliate reports? All right, seeing none and seeing no old business, we'll now move into a 5-minute caucus breakout. Again, it's a strict 5, so please be back on time. All right, we're going to keep moving on with the agenda with the caucus breakout being over. Before we continue with the agenda, because the next couple items are confirmations, I want to reiterate the system that we are using in terms of going through those confirmations. So last time, I'm sure you guys remember, we did an email system, Google Drive, or Google Forms at least, and that's how we did it. We're changing it so it's a lot easier, but I do need you guys to listen so that you know where exactly the form will be sent. So in Microsoft Teams, within the UPUA channel, there is a General Assembly tab, which all representatives have been added to. If you go to that channel, that is where all the Microsoft forms will be sent to vote. So with Microsoft Forms, you can vote once. Microsoft will recognize your account so that you can't vote more than once. However, on our end, it's all anonymous, so we can't see who voted yes or no or abstained. So with that, please make sure that you have a tab on your phone or your computer open to Microsoft Teams to the General Assembly channel. And within that channel, you will get the forms, and I believe all representatives were added to that recently today. So that's how voting will work today, or that's how the confirmation process will work. If you have any questions going throughout, just please raise your hand and I can answer them. But for now, just make sure that your Microsoft Teams are up in that in the next couple of confirmations. So with new business, we are going to move to line item A, which is confirmation of Executive Director of Records, Nikhil Chaudhary. Nikhil, if you could raise your hand so I can see you. You will have 5 minutes to speak and then 10 minutes for questions. You may start whenever you'd like.
All right, good evening, everyone, and thank you for your time and the opportunity to address you. I hope your first week back has been going well so far and that you and your family are safe and healthy. Initially, I only really knew of the UPUA by name as the guys who paid for resume printing at the career fair and sponsored other programs here and there, but I never really understood the function until recently, and I'm still learning. I ended up talking to someone who was involved with the organization and they spoke very highly of it, but I still didn't really understand the scope of the organization until I applied. In the month of service as Acting Executive Director of Records, I have found in front of me a group of extremely passionate students engaging in what could be described as a high level of school pride and selflessness that they are willing to come together to regularly discuss how to make the student experience better for their peers. I found a group of leaders committed to enacting change, equalizing the playing field for all, and using their diverse backgrounds and experiences as a catalyst to challenge the status quo. The energy of this group of people is really exciting and inspiring and challenged me to think outside the box for my first month. This past month, I met with quite a few people for advice on the unique situation of working on a digitization process during a mostly remote period. After consulting with Angel Diaz from the Special Collections Library, we were advised to try and find a digital solution that combined both storage of these digital assets and access to them for interested parties. We also received information on the records that the Special Collections Library possesses that would be useful once that library opens in September. In addition, we were given advice on how to maintain Penn State's accessibility standards for differently abled people, which I think is super important. I was interested in finding a solution which is ready for changes in technology, future-proof, if you will. With the criteria of future-proofing, storage, and access, I approached the IT department for advice. After Nick Deal took a look at our current storage system, he recommended a combined approach of Teams and SharePoint, which matched all three criteria. I knew that Thon leveraged Teams to collaborate and share information with their student volunteers. I reached out to them and met with them to get some advice on how they managed the various committees they had, how they managed changing roles every year as people graduated and moved around the organization, and other tips and best practices. Andy Donato also kindly offered to give us advice as we move forward with this endeavor. I bring to this role my experience last year as the Secretary for the Liberal Arts Ambassadors, formerly known as the Liberal Arts Envoys. During my tenure, we decided to change the name and move all our digital assets to a new account. I meticulously combed through our digital presence to update our name and contact information. In addition, I moved and organized all of our Google collaboration tools to a different account. I set up a contact system that streamlined access to our recruitment and membership lists, set up a Drive system that contained presentations, meeting minutes, and sign-up forms. I also set up what I consider my pride and joy of that year, a spreadsheet mainframe that tracked contact information, meeting attendance, and member involvement across the organization. I believe organization in general is the most useful tool to any team, and that I can help my teams find the tools that they need to help them stay organized and accomplish their goals. And I think my previous experiences enable me to do this. To the people that I may lead, I intend on creating a community centered around the values of growth and development for all involved. I believe that we all have various backgrounds and differences that we can use to enrich each other. Also, this growth and development does not necessarily have to be related to the work being done. It can very well be related to professional development, network expansion, or even social development. I think fostering this mindset enables greater teamwork. In terms of accountability, I think it's important for teammates to be able to depend on each other, but also not to be afraid to ask for help. The most valuable people to me are those who are responsible enough to ask for help or mention that they are out of depth. For example, one of my duties is to research the organization and the UPUA's history. To this end, I want to create a team of historians. Unfortunately, I've never worked with a historian in a professional capacity, and as such, I have no clue how to lead them. Tomorrow, I will be meeting with the head of the Department of History, Michael Kulikowski, to find out how best to lead a historian, what qualities to look for as I recruit them, and what they would typically expect of me. With this information, I can serve as a better leader. I'm really excited for the opportunity to work with the UPUA, and I hope that I am able to continue to serve as your Executive Director of Records. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. All right, are there any questions? If so, please raise your hand in the participants tab, which is located at the bottom. Representative Tierney?
Tim Tierney at large. Hi, nice to meet you. I was just wondering what your process is for taking minutes and what your kind of timeline is and how you go about something like that.
I don't believe that minutes are in my role, but in previous roles I have been taking minutes, and it's sort of doing a rough sketch of things as they come out, and then later on taking the time to sort of flesh it out completely. And I try and advocate for a neutral point of view regardless.
All right, Chair Jordan.
Hi, Sarah Jordan at large. Can you just tell us one idea that you have that's different from previous years you want to bring to the Assembly this year?
Yeah, absolutely. So I kind of wanted to, so for the history department, I kind of wanted to create sort of like a pipeline where possibly underclassmen, junior historians per se, would sort of work under possibly an upperclassman historian and sort of be primed to take over the role and be recommended for that role in the next year, and sort of have that be a self-sustaining department of its own.
Are there any other questions for Nick Hill? All right, seeing none. Nick Hill, I'm going to put you into a breakout room. Give me a second. You should have gotten the option to join. All right. All right, President McKay, can you please explain your nomination?
Of course. Nikhil is by far one of the most passionate people about this role that I think could exist. Nikhil reached out to me earlier this summer to talk about the Department of Records and asked just for a meeting to talk and look at the Google Drive as we had it set up. We went over together some of the flaws that previous records had kept, and which we're still really in the process of ironing out. And I'm really excited to see this new commitment to not only the longevity of these records, but the accessibility of them on a SharePoint website, which he has been working on. We've been talking extensively about how to use Teams effectively, and Penn State's IT department has been very helpful there. And the libraries have been incredibly excited to work with us as well, providing us with archives from not only the UPUA, but also the USG. And Nikhil has, in every conversation we've had, always been on top of the ball, helping schedule those things, as well as really challenge me in cabinet meetings as acting executive director. yeah, I was incredibly excited to see that he was interested. He's by far the most qualified person on campus to hold this role. I'm super excited to present him today. I do also want to clarify a point brought up about the secretarial rules. Historically, the Department of Records, or rather the Director of Records, has fulfilled the job of Assembly Secretary. One of the changes that we were discussing this year includes the Speaker's ability, as is his right per I believe it's the bylaws, to appoint an Assembly Secretary. And in that interim period of time, Stephen, myself, and the team here are sort of just working on recording this meeting and taking meeting minutes as necessary. Though Nikhil will not be doing that job moving forward. That will be the role of the Assembly Secretary at Stephen's discretion and brought to you before a confirmation.
That plants a tree for every search you have. Another director, the Director of Sustainable Transportation, Benjamin Orenson, he has been looking into how does Penn State source their food? Who are they getting their food from? How eco-friendly are the trucks that are delivering this food? And we have several other initiatives that we are working on as well.
All right, are there any questions for CARE? All right, Representative Risser.
Hello, Dan Risser at large. So being the Executive Director of Sustainability, you're going to be leading a big and very diverse team. Can you please explain a time where you were in charge of leading a team and where you faced conflict within that team and how you resolved it?
Yes, hi, nice to meet you. So I'm actually, as I mentioned before, Vice President of Queer and Trans People of Color. I currently lead, alongside Celeste Good, who's the president, we lead a team of 5 e-board members. And we have faced several conflicts over the summer as we were adjusting from being in person to being remote and having to adjust to people who could not access us because they're not out to their parents, they're not out to whoever they're in their environment, and it could become potentially unsafe if they revealed that they are part of a queer community. So we had several issues regarding one of our e-board members wanting to be still doing Zoom calls, and we said we cannot do that. We cannot say that, oh, we are QTPOC and potentially reveal and out them to their parents. So we had to have meetings where I personally would meet with the president. I'd meet with each e-board member, and I'd have to dedicate hours upon hours to meet with each of the e-board members, see all their differing perspectives, go to each other e-board member, explain other people's perspectives, because the problem was that there was a lot of conflicts and people were not getting along. So because of that, that took around 3 weeks and dedicated a lot of my time. But I think through that experience, I'd also learned how to approach conflict, how to be a team leader, how to work with people, but also lead a team.
Thank you very much.
Representative Ron Sorensen.
Hi, you mentioned that, Representative Ron Sorensen, you mentioned that you had like a few ideas that you were really excited to work on this year, and I was wondering like what your favorite ideas that you have.
Yeah, so nice to meet you. So one of the big initiatives that I have planned is that I know that we have the Lion Pantry, which is a great resource for food pantry, and it's just so accessible. But my thing is that, what about the students who don't have time to go to Lion's Pantry because their hours are very limited? So my idea is that, and I also have it very well written out, that I want to start a small pantry in each of the commons areas for residents on campus, so that if it's 10 p.m. and you realize, oh, I haven't eaten all day, you can't go to Lion's Pantry, it's closed. So in such a way that we would work with the convenience stores, that they would give us items that are about to expire, or they'd give us extra items that they don't need. And also there are to-go areas, such as in East they have Flips, and in Pollock they have, it used to be the Mix, and I actually worked in Pollock, and I would see the amount of food that was wasted at the end of the day, especially in the to-go place, and it was insane seeing all that food go straight into the trash. So my idea is that we take that food as well and put it into this small short-term pantry where students can come in and they don't owe anything to us. They just show their ID and they say, hey, I don't have any meal points, I need food for today. And there'd be no limits. We'd say you just have to come in, make sure you're not abusing the system, and we just have to be on the honor system, because there's some students who don't feel safe revealing that I am having financial struggles. Some students don't feel safe saying, I'm working 2 part-time jobs, I do not have time to go to Lion's Pantry during the day and make time for that type of trip.
So overall, just start a small food pantry, each of the commons, even the hub, so that students have easy access to free food, but they won't abuse it. And it's supposed to be a short-term type of thing.
Are there any other questions for CARE? Representative Foley DeFiore.
Hi, Representative Foley DeFiore, Neal College of Business. Hello, CARE. Thank you for coming today to speak to us, and thank you for joining the UPUA. I have a sort of a larger question for you. Outside of the UPUA, outside of your initiative, are there any large, just like super exciting or super broad vision items you would love to see in a sustainable future for Penn State as a university?
Yeah, so I actually have a lot of things that I can say, but I'm going to try to pick a few of my favorite ones. So one of them I definitely want to tackle is international students, because I personally am an international student. I'm from Canada, even though I was brought up in New Jersey. And we are not given the same resources that students that are in state are, or like our citizens. And I feel as though that international students, we need to be given more help because we don't have the same advantages that you do. And even for me, I still have some advantage because I was brought up here. But I would say like international student from India, and international student from East Asia, when they come here, they have to worry about their visas. And there's sometimes where the Global Programs Office, they won't respond for a few days. So what I want UPUA to do is at least apply pressure to assist these international students, to help them out, to give them extra resources, not just a bare minimum. We need to be going above and beyond for the international students who help our economy and help Penn State become such a diverse and robust community.
Chair Rodriguez.
Hi, CARE. Thank you so much for coming today and sharing why you're the best fit here. I also really loved what you just said, and I hope we can talk more about that at a later time. So I'm just curious, when we had Director Van Horn, her and I were in discussions about the unique connection between sustainability and racial justice in terms of translating that from environmental justice as well. And I was curious to know, with justice and equity, do you have any ideas or plans that could further advance racial justice at this campus, being intertwined with sustainability as it is?
So sustainability is also obviously related to racial justice. And I am currently planning on creating a position where we focus solely on racial justice, especially with everything that's been going on with Sean Setnick and all these other people who have shown that they are not safe for our POC community. And I want to start doing more informative initiatives where some people don't realize how ingrained racism is within them. So once I create that director position, when we get someone for that position, I want them to start going out, start making people question their internal biases, start putting people to realize like Black Lives Matter, and start realizing that we need to start supporting our communities. We need to start uplifting our communities, especially when it comes to POC and especially when it comes to the Black community at Penn State. So in regards to that, I definitely do see some big initiatives coming up where I personally want my department to be slightly aggressive when it comes to questioning racism and questioning practices that Penn State has that are racist, but we just don't view it as such because we know that they're an educational institution and that they're not here to, we believe that they're not here to hurt us, but indirectly they are.
Are there any other questions for CARE? All right, seeing none. CARE, I'm going to put you into a breakout room. Should get the option to join. Okay. All right, so President McKay, can you please explain your nomination?
I would be happy to. As I'm sure you're all aware, CARE is incredible. CARE is by far, I think, she has helped me, and to my knowledge, everyone that she's come in contact with understand the intersectionality of sustainability in so many different ways. Right? Sustainability is not just, as she mentioned, about recycling, reduce, reuse, and recycle, as much as it is included in sustainability, it's so much more. Social sustainability, social justice, fighting against systems of oppression, it all relates to SDGs. It all relates to the overarching theme of sustainability. I think CARE has the leadership, as she talked about her experience with QTPOC. Having worked with her over the summer, I know that she's going to challenge me. She's really been a confidant to me and I have to her in a way that really drives me to think critically about the sort of systems that are here at Penn State and in the world around us. Yeah, I think CARE is an absolutely fantastic fit for the role, and I'm excited to present her to you today.
Are there any questions for President McKay? All right, seeing none, is there any discussion? All right, seeing none, I will now close the floor for debate. We will now move into voting and secret ballot. Again, please go to Microsoft Teams to the General Assembly channel, and that's where the form will be sent. And thanks for being patient. All right, we're gonna give everyone another minute to vote. We're almost there. Head over to Teams and please make sure that you vote for the candidate. All right, the ballot is closed. Give us a couple seconds to count the votes. Again, thanks for being patient. All right, I'm going to bring Care back into the assembly room. Congratulations, Care. You've been confirmed with the vote of 33, 3-2. Congratulations.
Thank you.
All right, we're going to keep moving down the agenda with line item C, which is confirmation of Executive Director of the Civic Engagement Department. Grace, if you could raise your hand so I can see you. You'll have 5 minutes to speak with 10 minutes for questions. You may start whenever you'd like.
Hello, everyone. I'm Grace Harnett. Thank you for spending your night with me and listening to me talk about civic engagement. So just a little bit about myself. I am an education and public policy major. I'm a junior right now. I'm also getting a minor in sociology, recreation park tourism management. I'm also a master's student here, so I'm getting a combined degree, and that master's is in education policy and theory. So some stuff that I do is I am part of a sorority and I'm in charge of professional development for that sorority. I'm also part of Greeks Cares and I'm a Greeks Cares facilitator. That's where I speak to students on campus and in Greek life to talk about sexual assault and harassment and help create people being aware of it and being able to see the signs of it to be able to stop it. I also am a CEEP fellow, so that is Campus Election Engagement Project. I was it last year and they asked me to come back and do it again. So I am in charge of helping students register to vote and become educated on the politicians who are running. And I create multiple different types of content, a lot through social media and in person. And my social media accounts with the content have reached over 10,000 people and have been shared with Michelle Obama's nonprofit, When We All Vote. They have reached out to me to use some of the content I've created. Also, I have created memos, and part of the institutional change that I would like to do within Penn State through CEEP is creating a Greek life that is registered to vote. So having registration a part of rushing. Another thing that I do is civil rights research in K-12 education through Penn State University. With this department, I would like to create an environment that is welcome to students who are interested in civic engagement to join UPUA and provide them with the capacity to complete initiatives and advocacy and other impactful work while supporting and providing guidance to them. I want to create an environment that's welcoming and open for all who are ready to do nonpartisan work and to create a new part of Penn State that will help create change and sustainability. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, are there any questions for Grace? Representative Risser?
Hello, very nice to meet you. So in your opinion, Dan Risser at large. So in your opinion, what is the role of partisan politics within the UPUA?
Sure, so through CEEP, I am supposed to be nonpartisan and I'm required to be nonpartisan. So I signed a contract doing that. And I strongly believe in remaining nonpartisan because I believe our work here is to get students registered to vote, not convince them who they should vote for or influence their ideas and beliefs. So I would like to create a nonpartisan, and with the people running underneath me, I would stress the importance of that.
Are there any other questions for Grace? All right, seeing none. Grace, I'm going to put you into a breakout room. Give me a second. All right, you should get the option to join in just about a second.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, President McKay, can you please explain your nomination?
Yes, I would be happy to. Grace is by far a superb candidate for this role. The Department of Civic Engagement is so new. It has no roles under it other than a sort of vague PSU Votes Fellowship, which has been in the works over the summer with some help from our PSU Votes Roundtable chairs here today, and which I am excited to see continue to grow under the leadership of Grace. She's made it clear her experience prepares her to not only carry out this fall semester well in registering voters, which is something, as you would hopefully all know by now, I care deeply about, but which also allows her to transfer that experience directly to the role of a virtual environment, much easier than having not had that experience. I think her work with SEEP, as she mentioned, clearly outlines her ability to remain nonpartisan in a situation and, well, rather in an organization that is the Civic Engagement Department, which requires nonpartisanship. I am incredibly excited to see all that we accomplish together. I know that some ideas that have come up over the summer include somebody from the Commission on Presidential Debates having reached out to the UPUA about possibly hosting some kind of a virtual watch party. It's still in the works, but I'm excited to see how that can really help spawn a great partnership between this role and the department, as well as the chair of governmental affairs and the governmental affairs committee here in the assembly. Yeah, with that, I'm more than happy to answer any questions on Grace specifically or on the role, however I can help.
Are there any questions for President McKay? All right, seeing none, is there any discussion? All right, seeing none, I will now close the floor for debate. Again, please head over to Microsoft Teams where the form will be sent, and thank you for being patient.
Give me a second here to pull it up.
The form was just sent out on Teams, so again, please head over and vote as soon as you can. All right, I'm going to reiterate again, we don't have everyone in. We're not going to be waiting around for much more, so I'm going to give it 2 more minutes. If you haven't voted already, please do. And then in 2 minutes, we'll be closing the ballot. Giving a 45-second warning until the ballot closes. All right, I will bring Grace back into the room. All right, congratulations, Grace. You've been confirmed with a vote of 31-2. Welcome aboard. All right, we'll keep moving down. We'll now moving to line item E, which is resolution 1715, awareness of Penn State mask up or pack up, campaign and university and state college borough COVID-19 guidelines. Chair Jordan, take it away.
Yes, okay, hi everyone. So I'm bringing this forward tonight to help spread awareness to the Mask Up or Pack Up campaign. I think it's important to educate students on and off campus of the resources available that help can be given to them while at Penn State. This piece has consolidated all the most vital information needed to know for all students, regardless of any mode of learning you chose this semester. We want to encourage all members of UPUA to share this easily digestible information to their peers. It's going to be super important to do that, especially because we're all back and it's only been a few days. Furthermore, as it said in the legislation, the UPUA implores members of this organization to share the information created by both departments to effectively maximize the amount of outreach to the student body. And if you want to be a co-signer of this after you read over it, I would encourage you to put your name in there during discussion as an amendment. With that, I'll stand for questions.
I will also first say apologies, first of all. I skipped over on the agenda the swearing in, which I think is essential because we have a representative being sworn in and they can't vote on the legislation until they are. So Chair Jordan, I will give you the reins once we do the swearing in. That's all on me. But we're going to do the swearing in of the executive directors in the College of Agricultural Sciences, Representative John Mark Miller. So for those candidates, just please unmute yourself and repeat after President McKay when he repeats this swearing in.
Hello, executive directors and Representative Miller. If you could please raise your right arm and repeat after me. You can feel free to turn your mics off if you'd like. I promise to faithfully uphold.
I promise to faithfully uphold.
The Constitution of the University Park Undergraduate Association.
The Constitution of the University Park Undergraduate Association.
And to defend the rights of each individual student.
And to defend the rights of each individual student.
While working toward the betterment of student life.
While working towards the betterment of student life.
I shall perform to the best of my ability.
I shall perform to the best of my ability.
The responsibilities and duties.
The responsibilities and duties.
That have been entrusted to me.
By the
University Park Undergraduate Student Body.
by the
University Park Undergraduate Student Body,
through virtue of the office which I hold.
through
virtue of the office
which I
of which I hold.
Congratulations, everyone. Welcome aboard.
Congrats, everyone. It's always interesting to
Yeah.
hear that over Zoom. All right. I will now bring it back to Chair Jordan with Resolution 1715. Again, I'm going to also give you the time to explain this piece of legislation simply because that was on my part. So Chair Jordan again.
Yeah, hi everyone, Sarah Jordan at large. I can just briefly describe again, this legislation here is basically just trying to spread awareness of the Mask Up, Pack Up campaign. I think it's important that we educate these students and peers about what's happening right now at Penn State and the guidelines that are in order on what to do if you need to get tested, the mask distribution, this outlines, this consolidates all of the vital information that we think that you need to know. So we want to encourage all the members of UPUA to share this information to their peers and for UPUA to post it on their our Instagram and our social media. And at the end, I did say, if you look over it and you think you want to be a co-signer, I would suggest, or I would advise, if you want to add your name to the end during discussion as an amendment. But with that, I will stand for questions.
Are there any questions for Chair Jordan? All right, seeing no questions, is there any discussion on this resolution? Representative Bose?
Aaron Bose at large. I just have two friendly amendments. The first one is in the title to make Penn State possessive. So adding apostrophe S to the end of state.
Is there a second? All right, and it's friendly, so you may continue.
And then I don't have the version with line numbers, but it's in the last paragraph of the nature of the situation. If you could scroll up a little, I can tell you which one it is. Sorry. Up more is in the nature of the situation. Sorry. In line 76 to delete the word R.
Is there a second? And because it's friendly and the co-sponsor is also accepting them as seconding them, that it will all be taken as friendly. All right, Representative Lascalzo.
Ryan Lascalzo, Lion Pride representative. I really like to commend everyone who worked on this piece of legislation because it's really big and looks really good. The one thing I would like to say, this is in general about this, is I understand it's the beginning of the semester and we haven't had like committee meetings yet and such, but we have a lot of really big important legislation come from 2/3 in the afternoon today. And as a person that had classes in the afternoon, it was kind of hard to get through all of this before the meeting. And even though I really like this and I support this, I just would recommend in the future against, releasing these in the afternoon before a meeting.
Representative Tierney.
Tierney at large. I just have one friendly amendment. It just seems like in a few paragraphs here, the spacing is off. In some paragraphs, it's 1.0, and then in some it's 1.15. It looks a little weird on my screen, so my amendment would just be to change the paragraphs to make it synchronous so that it's either 1.0 or 1.15 across the board.
Is there a second for that? And because the co-sponsor is seconding it, it is taken as friendly. Representative Gibbard.
College of Engineering. I think in line 103, COVID is lowercase. That was just, I would change that. And then also change it to COVID-19. I don't know if that's the official name of it, but there's another place also where it says just COVID, not COVID-19. And just for like the sake of uniformity, I amend to change everything to COVID-19 with capital COVID.
And is there a second? And as the co-sponsor seconds it, is taken as friendly. Representative Robertson?
Hi, so while I think the UPUA has a responsibility to disseminate CDC guidelines and promote individual responsibility to students, I also don't believe specific participation in the Mask Up or Pack Up campaign. I think it shifts responsibility away from Penn State as an institution and onto students. And while I commend the sponsors for being great advocates, I don't believe association with this specific campaign is the direction we should take. And so I would motion to reword the resolution to solely disseminate information about CDC guidelines, but not participate nor create graphics for the campaign.
All right, with that motion, is there a discussion on the motion? I'm seeing a hand. Representative Tierney?
Tim Tierney at large. I don't necessarily disagree with what Representative Robertson was saying, but just changing the title of it wouldn't really impact what he's trying to change, because there's a lot of actual discussion in the piece of legislation that is talking about like disseminating that information about that campaign. So I think it may take a little bit more work. I'm not necessarily against that, but I think we would need to do a little bit more to the resolution to convey what Representative Robertson is trying to do.
Chair Jordan?
Hi, yeah, Sarah Jordan, at large. I just want to kind of discuss a little bit that this legislation is here just for awareness purposes. It's awareness of Penn State's Mask Up or Pack Up campaign and awareness of the State College and the University COVID-19 guidelines. These are things that are already set in place. The university has already paid for 2 masks for every student. So we're just letting students know of these protocols that are in place for them, that they can receive their 2 free masks, that there are guidelines for being on campus. That's why the wording is awareness of it, just because we want to kind of spread that. And I believe as, you know, being student government and people may come up to us, ask us questions about COVID-19, that it's important that we know the information that we can share with our constituents.
Chair Mishler?
Adeline Mishler at large. Sarah covered it pretty well here, but I think something that is of note that I think will kind of address some of our concerns with this is that this is a pretty all-encompassing, all-inclusive kind of packet of the major ticket resources that you need to know regarding COVID-19 and being a Penn State student. Whether you're in the State College Borough or not in the State College Borough, the information is all here. And we talk about testing, we talk about the borough, we talk about a symptom tracker, we talk about students needing to check their student portals and student email accounts if they are getting selected for testing. And I know that's a huge issue students are facing right now. They're getting emailed by Penn State and they're saying, get COVID tested or we're expelling you Friday. And students are saying, I'm not even in State College. I don't even know how to opt out of needing this test. So basically, this is disseminating information. Students downtown don't know that people can't be in their apartment. You can't have more than 10 people in your living a situation at any given time. You can't gather. This is getting all of those resources and not saying them, pretty clearly laying them out, but also giving the direct links of where you can get updated information. The reason that Mask Up, Pack Up is a part of this, as a lot of the university guidelines will be branded with that, because the borough and the Chamber of Commerce and the redevelopment authorities and the university have all latched onto that to streamline so students can recognize when they see Mask Up, Pack Up in a downtown business, that they need to continue to follow guidelines. It's not just an on-campus thing. It's not just an off-campus thing. It's an everywhere type of thing. And so we are saying that we want and we need that streamlined, recognized, and we are not going to be creating resources that say, hey, mask up or pack up. Basically, we are going to continue to point students to the avenues where they get information on the borough, on public health ambassadors. So yeah, we're more of a redirecting type of agency connecting students to the resources and to the outlets where they get that information, not necessarily creating that information ourselves, which is all we can do because students don't know what to do right now.
Representative Schultz.
Hi, thank you. Brian Schultz, College of IST. I just wanted to express I support this resolution in its current state. I don't think we need to eliminate language relating to mask up, pack up. I think it's really important, like we said, that we emphasize those coronavirus guidelines and branding, and without getting too far deep down the rabbit hole of who's responsible, what the responsible decision for the university was. I think coronavirus can be controlled if people are responsible, and we should really emphasize to students, this is what we as a community can do to take care of each other, and I think we should keep the resolution in its current state. Thank you.
Chair Rodriguez.
Najee Rodriguez, College of the Liberal Arts. So I completely understand the concerns that have been expressed regarding what this resolution aims to do. And I just want to point out, like, a huge key word for this is, like, we want to kind of craft easily digestible information and disseminate that to the student body. Repetition and reinforcement is really what's going to allow us to kind of converge all this information into kind of a single campaign. That is UPUA's. Basically just kind of contextualizing what information has been published from the borough, from Penn State, and allowing students to better understand it more easily in short graphics that they will actually look at, things that are extremely marketable that people will acknowledge and understand, just to make things a little more easy. And I think that in these trying times of a pandemic, the more information that we have disseminated, the better. The more resources we have, the better in any way. And I do want to alleviate those concerns, and by saying that this is going to be kind of just us redefining what's already been said in a way that can be better understood by general students. By hearing a lot of concerns of students maybe feeling confused about a lot of the directives that have been issued. And we just kind of, again, want to consolidate that. Thank you guys so much.
I also want to clarify, we're still on Representative Robertson's motion to change the title. That's what we're on discussing right now. So Representative Sorensen, is your point towards that motion or the general resolution as a whole?
Towards that motion.
Okay, I'll allow it.
So hi, it's Representative Ron Sorensen. I also agree with the sentiment that Noah Robertson presented. I don't necessarily not support this resolution. I think it's great, and I really appreciate the time that representatives put into it. But to go back to something that I can't remember who just said it, but a representative just said that no one would be creating graphics for this campaign, but in the recommended course of action, it does charge the Department of Outreach and the Department of Comm to pursue the creation of these informational graphics. So this is a university administration campaign, so I don't necessarily believe that this is within our purview to be doing this. I know that this was already shared via the UPUA Instagram story, and I feel like that's about as much as we should participate with this, because it's not, it's not our responsibility to be creating graphics for a university thing like this.
All right, I am going to actually address the motion. So actually, Representative Robertson, if you could type in what you would change the resolution title to, that way I can create a poll, and that would be essentially to what a voice vote is, just to get the gauge of the room and decide that. But Representative Robertson, I just want to get the correct title if you have one. I'll allow you to speak. I see your hand on the queue.
Okay, yeah, Representative Robertson at large. So my motion was really to just reword parts of the resolution throughout it to explicitly say that the UPUA is looking to disseminate that CDC guideline information, and also ensure the individual responsibility of students, but not necessarily participate in the Mask Up or Pack Up campaign. And so it's in part of the title, but I think it's also in part of the recommended course of action as well.
So does your motion still stand, or are you withdrawing it?
Well, so it would be more than the title. It would also be the course of action.
Okay, I see 2 more hands on the queue. What I'm gonna say right now is that if a recommended course of action is wanted to be changed, I would either have that language ready or table this. That also requires a vote, or at least a consensus from everyone. I will allow Chair Jordan to speak as she is on the queue, but that's just what I'm vocalizing to everyone as to what I'm hearing. But Chair Jordan?
Hi, I'm Sarah Jordan at large. I just want to kind of reiterate the kind of idea of this legislation here. Yeah, UPUA did already post a mask up, pack up on their, UPUA social media. That was kind of before students even came to University Park, the ones who did come back. And now I think more than ever, it's important to let students be aware of what is happening downtown. This has, as I know Chair Mishler said, a lot of the important situations going on. So now it's just, this can be sent to, other organizations, other clubs, so they know of, if somebody asks them where to go, what I should do. This is kind of what you can say, and you can even refer to it as your, by yourself, or at your own, if somebody is to ask you what to do, this is where you would go. I just kind of really wanted this to just be spreading awareness of it, because these are already in place. We're not adding anything. We're just kind of saying, this is what we need other students to know so that we can all stay safe here.
Because Speaker Zong is a co-host, he doesn't have the privilege to raise his hand, so I'm going to recognize him. Speaker Zong.
Yeah. I guess my question in general, because I'm not as familiar, I've seen a lot of the graphics, but I'm not directly familiar with the campaign. Is a lot of the information that Penn State is being tied to, including a lot of the guidelines, are they directly relating to Mask Up or Pack Up, or is this a separate, more of a social campaign to raise awareness of those guidelines, right? But not only the CDC ones, but also the university ones, because I think if there's information that is specifically within the Mask Up or Pack Up campaign that students need to know that isn't in the other guidelines, then I think it's in our best interest to kind of pass it as is, because we're not saying supporting Penn State's Mask Up or Pack Up. We're saying awareness and saying, hey, it doesn't matter if you guys support it or not, it doesn't matter if we support it or not. However, you guys should be made aware that there is this campaign going on, and there are very important information within this campaign that people should know about, and you might not be able to get in those guidelines. If someone can answer that for me, because I think if that's not the case, then I think it would be, I am kind of neutral either way in changing or not changing the title and everything. But I think that if that's the case, then we have to recognize Mask Up or Pack Up in some way, just because there's important information within the campaign. Then we probably want to keep it as is.
I simply because a question was asked, I also see in the chat that Representative Bose can answer that. I'm going to go refer to Representative Bose.
Erin Bose at large. I pulled up there's actually a website that purely just says, what is the Mask Up or Pack Up campaign? And it's from Penn State. And so I just wanted to double check that I wasn't saying anything wrong before I said it. But to specifically read from the website, the intent of the campaign, I'm quoting this, the intent of the campaign is to reinforce the Wolf administration and university safety guidelines, shift attitudes and behaviors of the hard to persuade, and make essential preventative behaviors widely practiced. So from reading that, it does seem like, and from what I've been working on with it, it is, the Mask Up or Pack Up campaign does include the guidelines and a lot of the information. The feedback that I've gotten from parents, administrators, and students alike is when we have these conversations and some of the meetings that I've been in as well, it's referred to as Mask Up or Pack Up without people saying CDC guidelines or any other type of guidelines or even state college guidelines. A lot of the times, like was mentioned before, Mask Up or Pack Up is kind of like the abbreviation and quick kind of shorthand that people are going to make people remember immediately. So I think it is in our best interest to keep it included within the resolution. for pure fact of seamless communication and simply that. Yep, sorry.
Representative Kalor.
Hi. So like going off of what Representative Bose said, so I am a public health ambassador for this, and part of our training was to basically learn all the CDC guidelines that, especially like working with the mask up or pack up thing. So yeah, the whole like job as a public ambassador, we're supposed to be enforcing mask up or pack up in its like entirety. So I think we should just kind of leave it the way the university is doing it and just support it. I don't think we really need to be creating our own graphics and doing it, because the university, I think, has it pretty much covered.
Representative Robertson, this is actually, I think this is your third time speaking, if someone could yield him time. All right. Thank you. Representative Robertson.
Hi, so I also have like the wording for the recommended course of action change. I will say, although I do understand the intent of the campaign is just to like reinforce those safety guidelines and shift those attitudes and behaviors, I'm sure this is something we'll discuss with the next resolution as well. I think the university has a much more active role in taking some of the responsibility for bringing students back and not shifting responsibility on the students with the rhetoric of mask up or pack up. And so my motion would be to change the recommended course of actions, third paragraph, striking like charges the Department of Outreach and Department of Communications to pursue the creation of informational graphics that relate specifically to the mask up or pack up campaign, and further detailed promotion to the safeguards that have been put in place by the university that include but are not limited to, and instead write, the UPUA should disseminate information regarding like testing centers and access, asymptomatic surveillance testing, etc.
Before I continue down the queue, what I'm going to also propose is that recommended course of action change and the title change be one motion, simply because I think it was phrased before that was the intent of that motion in the first place. So just to clarify, the motion right now is the change of the title, as well as what Representative Robertson just requested in the recommended course of action, since they do go together. Chair Mishler.
I'll lower my hand now, but I will, I think, motion to close debate and vote on this amendment.
All right, so there's been a motion to close debate. I don't see Chair Mishler.
Actually, again, I think I am supportive of the language change within the legislation itself. I think that's something we could maybe talk about. I think it makes sense to do these two together, but we could also reconsider the legislation change if the title fails. I think that the title change should fail with CDC, and we don't make many references to CDC, and mask up or pack up itself is in compliance with CDC guidelines and really just is supporting the Wolf administration's guidelines that are coming out at the state level. And again, this isn't really necessarily saying like we support mask up or pack up wholeheartedly. It's kind of the domain where a lot of things are living, and just to strengthen what was previously stated, the facts on mask up or pack up, there's and answer the speaker's question that resources as well are tied to mask up or pack up. So dissemination of materials that might not be directly related to COVID, like CAPS resources, which I would argue are directly related to COVID, but more inclusive, even more, CAPS and Burrow, and more than just what you would think is, put your mask on, Penn State. It's so much more. And again, this piece of legislation is about more than just mask up or pack up. This is about public health ambassadors. This is about COVID testing. This is about the information that we're seeing a lot of Penn Staters don't really know where to get, and it's taking too much Google searching to figure it out. We need to put this in our hand, and it's time that UPUA does play a role. I need to see more activity from UPUA on disseminating the guidelines, whether we're on campus or whether we're off campus or whether we're at home or whether we're sent home or whether we stay here forever. guidelines need to be followed now, no matter what. And this is what UPUA needs to just release the information, disseminate the information. I'm a big fan of that language change in there, but CDC guidelines isn't the way we want to go with the title change. But yeah, so I think we can call it a question.
All right, I will also clarify, I simply wanted to combine the two because I feel like if the title failed, then I would assume that recommended course of action would fail. If anyone disagrees with like combining the two, I'm also not against separating them. I'm gonna go forward with just keeping them together as one amendment. But again, if anyone's against that, obviously I'm willing to listen, but seeing no one really disagree with that at all. Representative Schultz? Oh, nope. All right,
sorry.
never mind.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
I would like to keep them personally. I don't know if anyone else agrees. I would like to keep them separate because I think the graphics thing is more logistical, and the other one's more of like, what branding do we support? At least in my opinion.
All right. Let me just quickly make a change to the poll. All right. So now what I'm going to do, I'm closing the floor for debate on the motion itself. So, and this is the motion on the title. So what I'm going to do, if I can do it right now, is that I will be releasing a poll. Give me a second. I'm doing it in real time. Oh gosh. Give me 1 second. Give me a second, everybody. Just trying to type it out. All right, so I'm going to launch a poll through Zoom. Those who are representatives and are able to vote, please, only you are the ones allowed to vote. So the first motion that I'll be proposing, and that you guys, this is essentially a voice vote to clarify, motion to change title to Awareness of CDC Guidelines and University and State College Borough COVID-19 Guidelines. I'm launching the poll. Please vote if you are a representative. All right, I ended the poll, so the amendment passes with a vote of 21, with including Speaker Zong's vote 14 to 1. So the new title has been changed to Awareness of CDC Guidelines and University and State College Borough COVID-19 Guidelines. The next change, again, give me a second as I have to do it in real time. Let's see. Here, share results, just so that everyone can see. All right, and let me just type up the next one. All right, so the next motion was to change the recommended course of action to the UPUA will disseminate information regarding testing centers and access, ... And I will launch that poll right now. Again, representatives can vote, and those are the only ones that should be voting. I'll leave it open for like another couple seconds. Including Speaker Zong's vote, the vote is 25-8-3, so the amendment passes. So both of Representative Robertson's amendments have been added, or at least changed the resolution. Now we are back to the discussion on the resolution as a whole. Representative Bose.
Aaron Bose at large. I don't know if this is allowed, but could I make an amendment to just remove CDC guidelines as a whole? And if you scroll up, I'm blanking on the wording, and just changing it to awareness of the Pennsylvania State University and State College Borough COVID-19 guidelines, purely for the fact we don't mention CDC anywhere in the resolution. So I feel like that could be a little bit misleading as a title. Also, guidelines just seems a little bit repetitive, and the Pennsylvania State University ones and State College ones do follow the CDC guidelines. So I'm motioning to just remove CDC guidelines and changing it to Pennsylvania State University.
All right, is there a second? Okay. Now, I'm gonna actually ask Representative Robertson, since you are a co-sponsor, do you accept this as friendly since you did second it?
Yes.
Okay, it's accepted as friendly. Thank you, Director Biswas, as well, for changing it in real time. All right, so now still on discussion on the original resolution as a whole. So the title is Awareness of the Pennsylvania State University and State College Borough COVID-19 Guidelines. Okay, so with that, is there any discussion on the resolution as a whole? All right, seeing none, I'm now going to close the floor for debate, and we will now have a vote. The same way that we're going to vote as we did in confirmations, we are going to do for resolutions. So please head over to Microsoft Teams, the General Assembly channel, and that's where the form will be sent. And thank you for being patient.
To answer Brian's question in the chat, resolutions and bills and all legislation is public, so our voting records are public. It's just for confirmation that they're private. Yep, all good.
I'm going to give it another minute. Again, I really don't want to wait around for people to vote. So if you haven't voted already, please do. Giving it a minute and then we'll be closing the ballot. Or, yeah. The ballot has been closed, just to inform everybody, and I'll have a vote count in a couple seconds. All right, so resolution 1715. I don't have the title in front of me just because it went through a couple name changes, but awareness of PSU campaign and University and State College Borough COVID-19 guidelines passes with a vote of 33-2-1. All right, we'll keep moving on down. So line item F, which is resolution 1815, addressing the COVID-19 return to campus plan. Chair Rodriguez, would you like to introduce this?
It's going to be Representative Robertson first, I believe.
Representative Robertson.
Hi, Representative Robertson at large. So hi everyone, thanks again for adding this to the agenda to consider tonight. I think it's incredibly important that the UPUA deliberate about the role of student advocacy as it relates to the university's COVID-19 plans. And so with the return of students back on campus in housing and with some in-person delivery of courses, there's some significant risk of students contracting COVID-19. And the university has taken many steps to alter its typical operations and to aid students impacted by COVID, but there is still a lot to be done to ensure the health of not only Penn State students, but also faculty, administrators, and local State College community members. There have been instances in which universities across the country have reopened their campuses only to be met with an ever-growing case count, and there's little reason to believe that Penn State will avoid similar fates, especially considering the recent news of students gathering both on and off campuses. So among many concerns, students face significant financial stress with an uncertain return to campus plan. Some students have faced a loss of income due to job uncertainty and also face unexpected costs associated with COVID-19 and changing plans. Being back on campus is essentially tantamount to the university facilitating financial insecurity among a vulnerable population of students. And COVID-19's impacts are widespread. Students face concerns about putting themselves at risk to go to an in-person class, dealing with friends or family remotely contracting the virus and potentially passing away, rearranging professional or academic plans to be cognizant of changing policies or opportunities. These are all stressors associated with being on campus, and they not only impact students' physical and mental health, but also their academic performance. And all while students are expected to be mindful about and educated on CDC guidelines and social expectations. It's a lot to undertake as an individual person, and students' various dimensions of health will suffer as a result. And so I'd like to also lend time to Representative Nieder.
Hi guys, Lakin Meter, Belisario College of Communications. So starting with academic concerns, our health and safety come before academics, and I'm sure all of us have felt that COVID-19 has taken a toll on our mental, social, and emotional health. Students cannot be expected to balance all of these outside stressors as well as the typical semester workload and expectations, especially if they're trying to maintain a hybrid in-person virtual schedule. The university hasn't done enough to address the academic concerns of its students, such as maintaining academic planning amidst canceled internships and study abroad trips, communicating with international students about visa statuses and a comprehensive return to campus, and adopting new grading policies that take into consideration the additional circumstances that students are currently dealing with. Community concerns, we have to remember that State College isn't just for us. Families live here and staff live here, and it's our obligation to do everything we can to keep Happy Valley safe. Our closest medical center has felt the effects of COVID-19 when students weren't even on campus, and now with a smaller staff and less ICU beds, the effects of an outbreak would be devastating for the entire community. With accessibility, hundreds of students every day rely on the White Loop and Blue Loop, as well as the bike share service. With these essential services currently unavailable, many students have difficulty traveling to and throughout campus, making in-person classes largely inaccessible to some students. Additionally, students who have stayed home and live in different time zones often have difficulty attending synchronous classes. This creates both mental and physical issues, such as a lack of sleep and difficulty meeting deadlines. And Student Compact. The Student Compact was the university's way of essentially absolving themselves of the harm that they directly put us in by having us back on campus. COVID-19 cases among students is inevitable, and instead of accepting that responsibility, the university forced students to put it on themselves, regardless of their own personal actions and efforts to mitigate the spread. The university coerced students into signing it by making LinePath inaccessible until it was signed. And I'll now lend time to Representative Rodriguez for concerns about disproportionate impact.
Najee Rodriguez, College of the Liberal Arts. A huge portion of this is obviously dedicated to kind of addressing the university's plans and these concerns for the disproportionate financial and health impacts on students that belong to underrepresented communities, and more specifically, Black, Indigenous, and people of color in general, who tend to face multiple socioeconomic facets that may contribute negatively if they were to attain this virus. And it's not even in a health manner if they were to attain it. It's already happening in an economic sense, affecting these communities' abilities to be able to pay for their tuition, to pay for basic family health services, to pay for groceries. Being part of Penn State, we're part of a larger community. And it's important that we have the ability to support everyone, no matter of your socioeconomic background, no matter the color of your skin. And unfortunately, in the United States, and more specifically as we're seeing in Pennsylvania and further in State College, it's essential that the university essentially develops a plan that's comprehensive, that can help mitigate the financial and health disparities that are prevalent to truly elevate those students. What we've seen is a lot of multicultural groups and organizations coming together to help one another. And I know Latino Caucus has a delivery service that they've kind of partnered with a member with, which is a really awesome idea. And I think that the university, it's just so showcasing the need for the university to step in more than it's already doing in terms of the general plan, and address this specific issue alone. Because it's not just the higher death rates, as I said before, there's more to this. How are these students of color going to be able to focus on their academics when they have other worrying issues at home, wherever they may be from? And I think the statistics are there. Again, in Philadelphia alone, it's just staggering. Nearly every zip code where at least 30% of patient tests were positive, they were majority minority communities. it's happening right in our backyard, and it's more than imperative that Penn State adopts and brings us into the loop with a plan that can be disseminated, that can be easily accessible to Black, Indigenous people of color. It's essential that we do this, and it's essential that we also push the university to do this as well. And that's why a huge portion of course is dedicated to hopefully emboldening the plan that hopefully is already being created, and if not, us contributing to that plan eventually. I now would like to yield time back to Representative Robertson.
Hi, so this resolution essentially describes only a few of the nuanced impacts that COVID-19 has on student life, and it's imperative that Penn State recognizes these issues. It's unreasonable to believe that individual responsibility alone can halt the spread of COVID, and this resolution officially recognizes that the only adequate means by which Penn State can ensure the safety of its students, employees, and community is to close on-campus housing. The UPUA also recognizes that students will be placed in unprecedented, difficult situations as a result of a second campus closure, so an exception should be made to allow students facing housing insecurity or other extenuating circumstances to remain in person. And we also recognize that the delivery mode for certain courses necessitates in-person engagement, so an exception should also be made for these courses as well. This resolution also calls for a prorated return of funds for fees and tuition of students this semester. After closing campus, this resolution calls for the university to prorate housing, dining, technology, and activities-related fees. It urges the university to consider the discrepancy between the various formats of course delivery and to return a prorated tuition to students. We feel students, regardless of in-state, out-of-state, or international status, should be charged with world campus tuition for a fully online course load, and this resolution calls for that return of tuition. This resolution also recognizes that it might not be feasible to return tuition dollars to students, so it calls for the university to also create a tuition task force, which is constituted by students and administrators and will interrogate the allocation of fall 2020 semester tuition dollars and ensure these dollars are not being spent in ways that are unavailable to students as a result of course delivery means or campus closure status. In addition to the previous advocacy, this resolution officially denounces the essence of the student compact and transfers responsibility germane to mitigating the spread of COVID away from Penn State and onto individual students. It's been demonstrated before Penn State returned to campus that individual responsibility is not sufficient to halt the spread of the virus, and Penn State, instead of canceling plans to return, coerced students into acknowledging the risk of returning. Although the university clarified this compact is not a waiver of rights, this resolution calls on the university to commit to not using the compact against students in any way in order to protect the university's financial or legal interests. And so I would like to lend my time to Representative Meter.
Hello again, Lakin Meter, Belisario College of Communications. Just finishing up, we have, in the event that the university does decide to continue allowing students to remain on campus, we listed some things that we are hoping to advocate for. Currently, the university is only testing 1% of students per day, which is only about 300 students per week. Other leading universities are testing far more students daily, and Penn State needs to as well. So we advocate to increase testing to 10% of students daily. Our students and professors can't afford to suddenly shift their classes online and pack up and go home. So in the event of a sudden outbreak, should we remain on campus, we advocate for Penn State to develop a plan that listing what they would do in the event of a university shutdown, so that we can be better prepared. We recommend that the university allow housing insecure students to remain on campus if the university were to shut down, and to keep limited food options available for them. We urge the university to develop late work plans for students who contract COVID-19 or who have to self-quarantine. We recommend that the university require virtual classes to be recorded so students who aren't able to synchronously attend class don't fall behind. We recommend that the university pay hazard pay to all student workers, as well as expand access to mental health services such as CAPS in order to combat the mental toll that COVID-19 has taken on so many students. The university should continue expanding all career services amenities to an online format. And finally, the university should commit to increasing student representation on COVID-19 task forces. And we stand for questions.
Are there any questions for Representative Meter, Representative Robertson, or Chair Rodriguez? All right, seeing no questions, is there any discussion? Representative Reynolds.
Yes, so firstly, on the topic of CAPS and student mental health, I think we can all agree that's going to be a serious crisis. And I would say that the absolute worst thing you could do for that is to send everybody home right now. And the reasons for, firstly, nobody had to be on campus. The university did not make anybody come to campus. Every single student who is here chose to be here. Every single faculty who's here chose to be here, everybody. And President Barron even said that there were more professors willing to teach than we had classrooms available. So I don't think that it's fair to tell the vast preponderance of students and faculty that they cannot be on campus when most of them are here following guidelines, doing their utmost to be able to get a quality education. Also, with respect to concerns for the town, I share that, and I definitely believe that the university needs to take a very hard line approach to students that are endangering residents of the town. However, it is also important to consider the fact that this town is literally built around Penn State, and that if Penn State students are gone for 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 semesters, and God knows how many more, because we don't know at this point, then there are countless small businesses which will go down that have been here for generations, and they will never come back again. And if you want to talk about diversity in the downtown, and you want to talk about the locals, there's nothing that would be more crippling to them than to be deprived of all of their sources of revenue. We will literally have nothing but multinational corporate brands downtown if those businesses do not get student support. And then finally, on this topic, with respect to student representation, we are the student government. We speak on behalf of the students, and sometimes that means speaking on what we consider to be their best interests. But I think it's also important to consider the fact that as student representatives, we should be closely representative to the sentiments of the student body. And outside of the UPUA and PLA, I have not encountered a single student who has told me that they want to be sent home. Everybody I have talked to says they feel safe. They would like to remain on campus. I know my own mental health has improved dramatically since I came back. The springtime was torture. I'm very, very glad to be back here. I feel safe in the cafeterias, and I appreciate all the risks, but I think that if you're weighing mental health, the vitality of the downtown and local community, and also just the freedom of choice and the value of education, we should be allowed to remain here. I support many of the other measures talked about. I think hazard pay or recorded lectures, those are important things to discuss. And I think that the university does need to take a hardline approach in punishing students that are just out there drinking in a mosh pit of 300 people without masks. But I don't think that that should deny others here the right to an education or their livelihood. Thank you. Sorry if I was a little too fiery.
I'm also going to reiterate this now, because when there's long discussions that go on, just remember, please don't make it an echo chamber. If someone has said your point and that's all that needed to be said, please just refrain from speaking. But if you do have a new point to bring up or really feel passionate about it, I'm not going to suppress that. Speaker Zong, I know that you said you wanted to hop on the queue.
Yeah, I think speaking to specifically the point that students choose to be on campus, I know one of the issues that I had was that I only had one course that the professor refused to go online for. So out of all my 5 current courses, only one of them, or one of them was like in person because the professor wanted to. It wasn't really for me at least, it wasn't really an essential course. I mean, it's an essential course for my degree, but it wasn't an essential course that I needed to be on campus for, whether it be like a lab or that's the such. The professor just felt like they wanted to teach it on campus. I think that my concern is that there are a lot of students who potentially are on campus because they are in required classes that they cannot get out of. And my concern is for their safety first and foremost. I think that there's a lot that we need to discuss, especially with, I do understand like the idea of the downtown businesses as well. You know, my parents own a restaurant. I know a few restaurant owners within State College. We've all, you know, come upon very hard times because of the virus, especially with the lack of revenue. And I can't imagine how much businesses downtown in State College are kind of having it when, you know, my parents owning a restaurant that's not even in a college town is having a lot of troubles already. But I think that at the same time, I think there are a lot of issues where I would say, if anything, life comes first and foremost for everyone. I think that just looking at the track record of the other universities that have either shut down or have reported higher cases, it's a very hard philosophical question to take. I think I understand that. It really depends on each person's point of view. But for me, I think the biggest thing is just valuing lives. And I would say that if going online means that we could significantly reduce even the potential of people getting infected, I would say that it is a worthwhile endeavor to at least consider, as opposed to keeping university open.
Representative Byrd.
Hi, I'm Amanda Byrd, College of EMS. Quick change of pace. I just had sent this amendment out earlier and I wanted to present it now. I don't know if we need me to type it in the text or if someone could bring it up since I already emailed it out. I developed this amendment with a group of students in EMS who I had sent this resolution out and was looking for feedback. Really, the only concern, well, not the only, but one of the main concerns people had was that what's that? Type it. Okay, here it, I'll type it or copy and paste it right now. Basically, students were concerned if we didn't outline what the move out process was, that Penn State was going to rush it and make it unsafe or unfeasible for students. So this amendment just calls for a very slow move out process with classes being canceled, so students don't miss any of their academic work. They shouldn't be punished for having to leave, essentially.
I think Representative Reynolds' second was to this to this motion at least. So because there's a motion on the floor right now, we are going to have our discussion based solely towards that, unless the co-sponsors would like to take it as a friendly amendment.
It's friendly.
Okay, so co-sponsors have accepted it as friendly. And with that, it is part of the resolution. We're going back to discussion. Representative John Mark Miller.
Representative Miller, Ag Student Council. I do not agree with this bill as it is for a number of reasons. Many of the points I agree with Representative Reynolds for everything he stated, as well as some others, such as learning patterns of students. Many students, prefer to learn in person. I am one of those people. Many of the people I've talked to, especially within College of Ag, really want to be here in person. Many of them are doing everything they can to stay safe so that they can continue to learn and get a good education. Obviously, many of the science majors are desperate to stay in their labs. Many of them want to be in an environment where they're learning to work in a lab, not simply writing lab reports, because that's going to impact their future job opportunities. If they don't learn the necessary skills to get a job in that field immediately out of college, it can have a negative impact the rest of their life. Further than that, we do need to be taking responsibility. I completely understand. And I want to say that I completely agree with many of the points in this bill, but I do not agree with advocating for a shutdown of the college again, not simply just because of the impact it has on my own college as the Ag Science College, but among the mental health, the social health, the learning ability of students here, because we really, in my mind, my opinion, and many others' opinion, we cannot afford to do that again because it's done so much damage already. I agree that we should continue to push as hard as we can to do everything that would keep us safe. People that are disregarding the guidelines set in place should indeed be, told that they're not doing the right thing. They should indeed face sanctions, actions, whatever that remind them that they're not in the right place. But we cannot afford to damage ourselves, the town of State College, and a number of other facilities and facets of this issue by shutting the college down again.
Representative Round Sorensen, again, please refrain from, if there's an echo chamber, I'd rather just not, cut someone off because I'm hearing repetitive language. But Representative Round Sorensen.
Okay, so I would like to directly respond to what a representative said before. Personally, I know that, like, I don't speak for everyone. None of us here speaks for every single student, and so therefore, like, we can't make assumptions for every student. Personally, I made the choice to resign from my position as an RA after the activity in East Halls after being on campus for only 4 days. I also felt pushed into that position this semester by multiple offices on campus, so I disagree with the sentiment that every single student freely entered into coming back to school with no outside pressure or coercion, and Representative Meter and Representative Robertson covered that exceptionally in this resolution. I also find it difficult to believe that everyone feels 100% safe on campus and that not a single student wants the university to close again. It's really dangerous to make assumptions like that about the student body. I also argue that sending the students home would not be the worst thing for their mental health. It's not devastating when a school closes. It's devastating when a friend dies because their university pushed them into coming back, didn't test everyone they could, and didn't make efforts to reduce on-campus housing, and didn't have a plan for campus closure. This resolution is multifaceted and covers every concern a student could have. It may be hard to accept that some students are scared, but it's the truth and we can't ignore that.
Representative Choi?
Yes, Representative Choi, at large, Dean Choi at large. It's been such a while. I would like to comment about sending students home. I definitely think that after a conversation that was had with President Barron, I decided I really think that he had said that his goal was he knows that he can't make everyone happy, and I know that like this is very polarizing and political, but I don't think the goal should be to make a certain amount happy, like 50% even. I think the goal should be to make campus 100% safe, and right now without closure you can't make campus safe. I personally would not want to see us do this again in the spring, and I think for us to prevent that in the spring, we have to act proactively now, which means the closure of campus. I am very, very in support of this resolution. I think that it's absolutely necessary that we give students who don't have housing or have to be on campus, like the art students or nursing students who have to have in-person classes. Yes, that is obviously all very important, but there are hundreds of freshmen who have only online classes and are here just for that first year experience. And of course, it's great to have that first year experience. You want that first year experience of college, but it's not necessarily the right thing to do. I don't think that giving people the choice as a university is very appropriate. I think that, after speaking with a few students and also professors, the professors follow what the university protocol is. Whatever admin decide, that's what they kind of do. And like representative said before, there were certain amounts, there was a lot of professors who preferred to have in-person classes, and I think student behavior, as we've seen, it doesn't necessarily, like, we can't always be sure that we're going to actively follow these protocols. I think that it's impossible for anyone to enforce these policies of wearing masks, of using hand sanitizer, even and socially distance within such a big campus. I think in a fairy tale kind of land, this plan works, but I think we're missing the fact that we're students, we're 20-year-olds, and we were given this choice by people who are over 50s and have degrees in education and administration and things like that, so we trust them. But I don't think that they have given the greatest option, because I don't think there should be a choice. I think they should be very, very strict
on who can be on campus and who can't be on campus, because I really do not want to do this again in the spring.
Representative Schultz.
Hi, thank you. So I'm not trying to create an echo chamber here, but I do want to just reiterate, I strongly agree with everything Joshua Reynolds says. There's numerous benefits to being on campus. I want to also add to what he said that the quality of education, even with a tuition refund, is not as good with digital classes, and is not going to support everyone's learning style. If people want to do not want to do in-person classes, we have that option. Specifically, I agree with everything in this recommendation, except I do not see the jump to saying we cannot have in-person classes. I think there should be an option. And so I'm new to the procedure here, but I would like to sort of amend this. I have language ready if we can do that. I'd like to amend it to, I can show everyone. Basically,
if you have motions to make, you can make them.
Yeah, so I would just like to suggest maybe some different language. So replacing the first paragraph with what I just put in the chat there, and then just a few other a couple other edits that follow that in the paragraphs after. This is the first paragraph of the recommended course of action. Sorry.
I'll give everyone a couple seconds to read through it, but if there's a second, please put so in the chat. Okay.
Thank you. And if it helps, Aphrodite, I can send you, I have an edited Word document.
All right, so since this is a fairly large amendment, and I'm gonna also, I think this is also gonna be discussion on the motion as well. So just keep in mind, we are now in discussion on this motion to change this paragraph. So if your hand is raised, just be aware of that change. So it'll keep going. Also, I know it's a long paragraph, so if everyone needs just a bit of time, please take your time.
Yeah, thank you.
So with this motion, Representative Scalzo.
There's the mute button. Ryan Lascalzo, line Pride Representative. This was originally for as a whole, but it applies to this same as well. I am one of the students who decided to come back on campus this year. I am quite literally in a dorm right now. The reasons I did so were, well, the reasons I came back was because last semester, my mental health was the worst I've ever been. Once going home, I did terrible in a ton of classes, as well as a whole bunch of student organizations require students to be on campus to actually function. Special living options, ARSH, etc. And as mentioned before, jobs downtown could disappear. Despite that, I am still in favor of the original portion of the resolution. Because when I came back to campus, within the first week, there were twerk circles, there were two fraternities got suspended for having parties against the IFC said they weren't going to have any, and these fraternities went against what the IFC said they weren't going to do it. And even the minor things, standing in a dining hall, line in the dining hall, there are still students who disobey rules. They get close to each other. They don't care. And the issue is all of these students believe that they are doing responsible. They're following the right guidelines. They're following what they think is a logical thing. And the issue is no one thinks they're the raindrop that causes the flood. Everyone thinks that they're okay. They're operating within a reasonable limit. They're going outside the boundaries a little bit, but not enough. And that's the issue. We all trust ourselves here on campus that we are going to be the responsible ones, that we are following the rules, but you can't trust anyone else in a sense. People will break them. Their logical limit is different from our own. And I think the purpose of student government and any type of government is to make action when the individual can't make it on their own. I'm staying on campus because I trust myself, but every student who stays on campus trusts themselves. The thing is, it's been proven that not everyone on campus can be trusted, and people are breaking the rules. And with that, I think even though it could cost a lot, it is worth it to send students back home. And for that reason, I am against the change in this paragraph. Thank you.
Representative Shi?
Hi, I'm actually like to, voice my support for this, and I like to give a few, statistics since numbers can be really persuasive. So the Harvard University is doing 3 testings for all students in, per week. Boston at least once per week, Illinois twice, and Yale twice a week. And for us, we're doing 1 test for every student per 100 days. And we have the population at least twice than any of these universities. And we are rather in a closed environment. Remember, we are in a valley. This school is sitting in a valley. And also, I was contacted for a surveillance test, and I'm not actually on campus because all my classes are online. So I choose to stay at home to finish my education for this semester. And I have to spend 2 days sending like at least 5 emails to prove that I'm not actually on campus, and would be hard for me to, actually go to campus and perform such a testing. So what I'm concerned about is that does the university administration really have a clear and specific, procedure to, keep track of every student's status of, where their physical locations. And also, as we can see, the COVID-19, it can be minor syndromes, and sometimes students won't even aware that if they have it, and it can have a long period where they have no syndromes. So is that like, yeah, we want to trust our students that to take full of the responsibilities, but in the reality, sometimes incident happens. So we have to count that in our plans for this COVID-19, how to react, how to, better prepare for it. So I think the university need to actually improve their plan, their guidelines to be, more prepared for this, for the, possible outbreak in the winter. Thank you.
I also want to clarify, we are on the motion to amend to this paragraph, not the resolution as a whole. So right now it's the paragraph that is highlighted in yellow. And with that, I will continue with Representative Robertson.
Hi, so I disagree with this amendment. The university has already considered the grave considerations of bringing students back, and they made the decision to do it anyway. It's important to consider that individual responsibility has already failed at Penn State. Like previous representatives have mentioned, 2 fraternities have been suspended, large gathering of students have been reported online through social media, and just from our own empirical observations of being back on campus, students walk around downtown without wearing masks. The university needs to take and demonstrate decisive ethical leadership by closing campus and not by providing students the capacity to make their own individual decisions whether or not to return to class. I think it's important to consider the burden of responsibility when it comes to this. I personally would not trust 18 to 22-year-olds who have demonstrated that they're willing to ignore CDC guidelines and group up in East Halls over the university. I think the university really needs to take a strong stance to that, and that's why I would disagree with at least the specific wording of this amendment, that it makes me think that this resolution is advocating for the university to consider allowing students to choose to attend in-person classes.
Representative Meter.
Hi, Lakin Meter, Belisario, College of Communications. I also disagree with this amendment for a few reasons. One is that I understand that allowing students to choose whether they want to remain on campus, they could choose to remain for their mental health, for their classes, but a large portion of those students who will decide to stay are the students who are choosing to do twerk circles, who are choosing to go to fraternities. And they're here for the college experience. They're not here to keep themselves and the community safe. And I think at the same time, there's also a reason that there were entire state shutdowns, entire business shutdowns, and instead of letting them choose if they wanted to remain open, because if you allow people to choose if they want to stay or shut down, the spread is just going to continue happening. The only way to mitigate the spread and to fully keep students safe would be to send students home. And so I disagree with this proposed amendment.
Again, I'm going to clarify, it is on this amendment. I also see a motion to close debate. If there's a second, I'm also going to agree with it. All right. So I'm going to decide to, if it's a short comment, Representative Schultz, I will allow it, but after that, I will be closing the floor for debate.
Yes, very short, but I do believe it is new information. So I'm on the faculty senate through my role as an academic representative, and a few weeks ago we had a meeting with Provost Jones, and he was talking about how they're planning to control it. And I agree there needs to be more testing. I agree with everything in this resolution, except I don't think we need to do virtual classes. I think we need more testing, and like I said in that last sentence there, recommendations, if data and recommendations from public health experts show that they're not being held safely. Right now, we think there might go wrong, might go well, but I think we need to monitor the data, and I think we need to give it a little more time. I think we need to give students time to make the right choices and time for the university to put out that information and to take strong action to actually enforce those guidelines. Thank you.
All right, with that, I'm going to close the floor for debate on this amendment. I'm going to release a poll with, basically this is again reflecting a voice vote. So the amendment at hand is the paragraph in yellow. I will also have a bit of it in the poll that I'm sending out. By saying yes, you want this paragraph to be included and changed into the resolution. By saying no, you don't want it and you want to revert back to the original. And by abstaining, you were just not present for the discussion, or you're not fully, you weren't present for the vote, so you don't have a super educated vote. So with that, I'm launching the poll. I'm gonna give it like 30 seconds to a minute, but not too long. I'm gonna give it a couple more seconds, but then I'll be closing the poll. The amendment passes with a vote of 18-15 to 1. So that paragraph is now included in the resolution. Now our discussion is going back to the original resolution with this amendment added to it. So it's a resolution as a whole, and I will be going back to the queue. Representative Meter.
Hi, Representative Meter, Belisario College of Communications. I just wanted to address some of the points that were made against this bill as a whole. In regards to the downtown businesses, the effects of COVID-19 have obviously been pretty horrific on small businesses, as we've seen with downtown businesses. But to reiterate Speaker Zong's point earlier, life does come first. And we're advocating to transition online, send on-campus students home, which would hopefully incentivize some off-campus students to go home as well. But there would still be off-campus students who live downtown who could still sustain those businesses as best as possible. As sad as it is, I don't think it's our responsibility to ensure that they stay open while putting ourselves at risk in the process. Additionally, we can't just ignore what's going on at other schools across the country. Universities that have better testing procedures, have better opening procedures, are still seeing outbreaks despite their COVID plans. And if we aren't proactive now, this will just continue happening. We'll keep seeing spikes, we'll keep seeing deaths, we'll have to keep signing liability waivers. So if we're not proactive now, this is just going to continue. And I know that I personally don't want to go home. I choose to come back to Penn State. I work on campus, so if we did shut down, I would be out of a job. But this isn't about me. This is about Penn State. This is about the community. And I would much rather spend another semester at home than to go to funerals for my friends or possibly even die myself. So yeah.
Representative Reynolds.
3 points in response to that. Firstly, if the students remaining off, well, we can't really control who stays on off-campus housing to begin with, which of course most students do live in off-campus housing. And if the idea is that they can support the businesses, then firstly, they alone are not sufficient to do that. And if the argument is indeed that they are beneficial to supporting the businesses, then that would lend credence to the idea of just remaining on campus for all. Secondly, there are a number of people here who are on campus right now that are advocating for all students to be sent home. And it's a little puzzling to me because the calls for group responsibility, I would think that first and foremost people would, and this is not intended as an attack, but I would expect self-responsibility to come into play first. If you truly believe that it is an endangerment to the well-being of others for you to be here or for anybody to be here, then why is anyone here to begin with? I know that one of the people, for example, on here actually has an in-person class. And so I'm just curious because I know like that particular class could also be had over Zoom. And so as some other students in the class are doing it. And so why is there anybody arguing for all students to be sent home if they themselves are still on campus and they chose to be here because it is indeed beneficial to them? And then I lost my last point. I'll leave it at that for now. Thank you.
I believe Representative Robertson, you've spoken more than twice. If someone could yield him time. All right, Representative Robertson.
Hi. So, well, I think that amendment entirely changes like the nature of the legislation. I also want to address a few things that representatives have said previously. With regards to like mental health due to a campus closure, this resolution gives exemption to students facing extraordinary or extenuating circumstances. And I would argue that mental health concerns, extreme mental health concerns due to a chance of returning home for whichever reason, is an argument to make to the university to remain on on-campus housing, as well as with classes that have been talked about. The legislation specifically says that specific courses necessitate an in-person course delivery format, and the resolution acknowledges that by saying essential courses should be exempt. It acknowledges that by saying that essential courses should be exempt from the campus closure. And so I just think like the paragraph we added in it doesn't do anything. We're essentially advocating for nothing. Because students have already proven that they're incapable of making responsible decisions when they're here. And although you can take individual actions to protect yourself from the virus, such as wearing a mask, the people around you, or not wearing a mask, as it is like, you're right, I guess, but the people around you can't consent to contracting the virus based off of like a student's irresponsible decisions. And I think Penn State has a moral obligation to help decrease the chance of that happening by sending students home who aren't facing those extenuating circumstances.
All right, Representative Klipstein.
Jacob Klipstein at large. I'm gonna be honest, I'm kind of upset about the discussion and that amendment that we just passed. I think what we're really talking about here is death, right? And since we closed in March, 180,000 Americans have died. Thousands more have died across the globe. The fact that we're back right now was the wrong decision to begin with. Things are not any better than they were back then, right? And I want to not pretend like reopening Penn State wasn't an economic proposition for everyone, right? I'm back here right now because I signed a lease that I can't get out of, hundreds of thousands $100,000 into my education so far, and to kind of throw that away and take a semester off wouldn't have been worthwhile, right? So I don't want to pretend here like students weren't economically forced to come back, right? And what we're discussing here is not really putting classes online, right? 16% of classes are in person right now. That's not what we're discussing. We're discussing whether the university should send students that are in dorms home. And if that's the question at hand, then the answer is yes. It's not safe. And we really can't control what our students are doing off campus. So while we may have been good so far, and I promise you classes are the safest part of this endeavor, we have no idea what students are going to do this weekend, right? The University of Alabama had 500 cases in their first 2 weeks. What makes Penn State special that we are going to avoid the same fates as Alabama, North Carolina, Notre Dame? I really don't know. I haven't seen it yet. And I'm really upset about that amendment being added because I think it ruins what otherwise was a really good bill. So as long as that amendment's in it, I'm going to vote no. On another note, the other day I polled Penn State students about this question, and I asked them, do you think Penn State should go online? And with 100 responses, I got about a 65-35, yes, we should go online, 35, no, we should stay on campus. So I'm really confident that the will of the Penn State students says that they want to go fully online because most students either A, didn't come back, or B, are here because they're economically forced to be. And while I feel so terribly for those businesses downtown, they're not my constituency, the students are. And I'm trying to keep students alive with this vote. I'm trying to keep students alive by voting for this resolution. And if that's not our top priority, I don't know what we're doing here.
I'm hearing echoing thoughts. I will allow one more representative to speak, but I think what I'll also do is release a poll asking if you have made up your mind about how you're voting on this resolution. The majority of you have, we'll just continue and vote. If there's discussion that needs to be had, I will also then consider that in mind. But Representative Scalzo, I'll let you speak before I release that poll.
Thank you. Representative Scalzo, Line Pride. I'd like to respond to a comment made that I think was directed at me. The reason why I am both advocating for us to, I advocate for us to go home as well as being here on campus is because, as I mentioned, my mental health went down when I was at home. I came up here because I think it's important, and I'm staying here because I trust myself, and I think that I both was it, and I'm up here because I think it's, if it's the option, if there's an option and I go home, and I decide to go home, it's going to be worse for me than because everyone else is up here and comparatively people who stay up here is going to do better. I'm still going to be paying the high tuition. It's still the economic thing, as Representative Klipstein said. We are kind of forced to be on here, a lot of people. And I think the only way you can get students really to go back is if we all do it together. You can't, in this case, as I said before, individuals think they're responsible, individuals trust themselves, but as shown, work circles, fraternities, and we are not safe, but we choose to put ourselves in danger because we have to, and I don't think we should. That's it.
So what I'm gonna do is, because I'm hearing repetitive thoughts, I'm not sure if people want to continue discussion. I'm gonna release a poll that basically asks such. Just please answer it when you can. I just don't wanna, I don't wanna close the debate for a vote if people are not sure, but I also do not want to, I don't know. I'm just gonna see what the vibe is of the assembly before we continue. In my opinion, I think that's a lot of people who still need a little bit more convincing either way or the other. So we'll continue with discussion. Thank you. Representative Reynolds, actually, can someone yield him time? I think this is the third time that you're speaking. Actually, before Representative Reynolds, Chair Mishler, you have a motion.
Yeah, and I don't know if I want to formally make the motion, but I think this is maybe a conversation that should take precedent. Or I'll formally make the motion because I did jump the order. So I'm going to motion to table this piece of legislation, recommit, I don't really think is a thing because it came by 2/3. So essentially I think that and I totally first want to primer by saying we really don't have time. Time is of the essence. So I understand that. But there are some really great asks here to administration. And there was an amendment made that really changed the nature of this resolution. And that I don't think that the co-sponsors are, support in any sort of way, not really saying my opinion on it, but I think it completely changed it for them. And I think that there's some poison pills for certain people. I think this is going to fail per past kind of references that were made. People who were supporting this are no longer. And again, I think there's great asks of administration. I think that this is not the right route that we have to take. I think we need to pull these things apart. I think that UPUA needs to get strategic. Something I've been talking about for weeks is we need to break out, and we need people talking about alternative grading. We need people talking about prorating tuition. We need people talking about our remote course. I'm not sure that putting this all together right now, and now we're saying, don't send students home, send students home. We're saying a bunch of different things in one piece. We're not working with administration. We're going a bunch of different ways. I think this is completely changed in a matter of minutes. Let's take this back. And to be honest, we don't need anything to advocate. We could get on a call tomorrow with administration and immediately starting putting into practice things that are very student friendly. Stuff like prorating tuition, stuff like alternative grading happening ASAP with faculty senate. And we can start doing these things tomorrow, individually, separately, in the committees where they belong. Right now, it kind of seems like this is going to fail, and this is going to confuse the admin beyond belief. What does the student government want? What do students want? Wait, they wanted to send us home. Now they don't want us to send us home. This has failed, so they don't want students to say, I'm confused too. We need strong messaging. We need strong advocacy. We need things that are student friendly. This experience is hard enough. Let's table this. Let's get strategic, and then let's move forward, and let's work with Old Main to make this a safe and positive experience for our staters.
Because there's a motion to table, I did clear the queue because this is now a new discussion on the motion to table. If you would like to speak, again, please raise your hand. We are discussing the motion to table alone, not the resolution. Representative Schultz?
Yeah, I just have a very quick comment. With my amendment, my intention was just to say we support all of the asks here, but we're not entirely 100% sure about the canceling in-person classes thing. So if we want to reformat the whole bill, maybe this motion would be appropriate. I don't know. Thank you.
Can someone yield Representative Reynolds time? All right, Representative Reynolds.
Thank you. I appreciate Chair Mishler's suggestion to table. I would have to say that I think that personally we need to vote on this, and personally I would say vote no, and then come together and have a discussion on the points, a real discussion that's not sent out the afternoon of, because there are many things within this document that all of us completely agree on and that we all know would be beneficial regardless for student safety and student mental health and the student financial situation and all of that. So I think that personally we need to have this discussion or end it tonight and then have a proper week to really put together new legislation that is more palatable and more unifying and something that we can actually really rally behind. And also one other point to that is this really, really impacts the students in a massive way. And I think that it is only right that we actually hear the student voice. And I don't mean to reject the validity of somebody's poll, but this is a largely partisan issue. And so I'm not sure that a poll of less than 1,000, less than 500, less than 200 students by the College Dems president would necessarily garner a truly reflective response of the student body. And again, I personally can't say that I can speak with a proper representation of the student body. That's why we need to have some proper polling and at least get some student input before we decide to weigh in on their behalf.
I would also refrain from slightly personal attacks like that. Let's just keep going on this motion. There's a motion to table. That is what we are currently, Speaker Zong.
Yeah, just a quick point of information. If we vote this piece of legislation down, it means that we won't be able to bring it back again without changing the nature of the situation. So I think, in my opinion, and this is completely up to you guys, tabling would be better out of the two, just because, like, if we agree on everything except for recommended course of action, we'd have to rewrite that completely as well if we vote no, or at least change it in some way. And I don't know how much we should change it. I know sometimes, like in the past, we've been really wishy-washy on this, and like sometimes we're like, oh, we just have to change a sentence, and other times we're like, oh, we have to change it completely. And I don't want to run through that rabbit hole of voting no. So out of those two, I would recommend tabling, just because it seems like the recommended course of action is the only thing that people have kind of like an issue with. But again, I leave that up to the assembly.
I will allow the two representatives on the queue to speak, but after that, I will be asking people to vote on the motion to table. But Representative Shi.
I mean, so far I would, support the table because we have too much in plate for this resolution that we can actually, split up. We can have, one on, the plans to convert to virtual learning, one on, a connection and collaboration with the CAP service, and, one on, the downtown business plans, etc. Because like we have so much right now, and, many representatives can get so confused of like, what's our real plan here. So we can rework on this, separate them out into individual plans, make them kind of more clear, so we can be more persuasive to the university administrations.
All right, with that, I'm going to close debate on this motion to table. I will release a poll again, reflecting a voice vote, just to get just to establish what people are voting on. But motion to table resolution 1815, the poll has been launched. I'm going to give it 30 seconds to a minute, but please vote when you can.
Representative Schultz has a question.
Representative Schultz, you may ask it while the poll goes, if it's a technical question.
Yeah, it was just about like what tabling does. Does tabling mean it can be reconsidered versus like if we don't table and vote no, it like can't be re-brought up? I wasn't clear on that.
Yes. Yeah, so I can clarify that. So essentially what recommitting means bringing it back to committee, but since this was brought by 2/3, it would be brought back to the co-sponsors, and essentially the language have to be changed. It can't be the same resolution being brought up again. It would have to be changed in a significant way in order for it to be brought up again. So essentially that's what that means. It kind of is, in other words, it's brought back to the drawing table, and you change or you make the amendments that you'd like there and then bring it back. But there has to be a significant change if you want to bring it back onto the floor.
Okay, thank you.
And with that, I am going to end the poll. And motion to table has passed with 25-9-0. With that, this resolution has officially been tabled. There will be no more discussion on it. So the co-sponsors and those who would like to work with those co-sponsors can definitely do so. With that, we will now keep going down the agenda with next line item, report by the Chief Justice of the Judicial Board, Chief Justice Shookman.
Okay, hi everyone. It's great to be back with you all after a very long spring semester and a very long summer. To keep my report very short and sweet, the Judicial Board application will close this Friday, August 28th at 5 p.m. Eastern. So if you know anyone that still wants to apply and hasn't gotten around to it yet, please refer them to upua.org/applications. We've gotten some pretty great applications, and so far I'm pretty excited about this semester for the J Board, but we could definitely always use some more applications, so if you know anyone that's interested, definitely refer them there. I am not on campus this semester. I'm learning completely remotely, so if you have a question for me, need to set up a one-on-one, anything like that, please reach out over email or by phone, preferably Microsoft Teams, actually. Yeah, and that's all I have. I look forward to a great semester with you all.
Are there any questions for Chief Justice Shookman? All right, we'll move on to next line item, executive reports. Are there any executive reports? Executive Director Biswas.
Hello, everyone. Nice to see all of you back. So I'm really happy to report that we've been up to a lot of things all summer, and I also sent a quick update towards the end of summer. I hope all of you had a chance to read that. But for right now, I have a rather long report, and I will also be sending out an email with all of this really soon. But here we go. So first off, I want to welcome all the new members of the Department of Outreach. I am so happy that we grew as a department. So to begin with, right now we have a new deputy director, we have co-directors for governmental relations, a director for RSO relations, and a director for alumni relations. These are all positions that existed somewhere in the entire grand scheme of things with UPUA, but now it's all under the Department of Outreach. Along with that, in the past few weeks, there were executive decisions made wherein the entire Department of Communications sort of got absorbed into the Department of Outreach, and that is essentially to streamline the process of outreach with the student body and having just one point of contact and one point of outlet for UPUA as a whole. So with that being said, now the Director of Graphic Design, the Director of Social Media, and the Director of Website Management will be falling under the Department of Outreach. And something that's relevant to all of you as representatives, if you need any graphics to be made, there will be a graphic request form that you can fill in, and we will process that request accordingly. And the same thing goes for social media promotions. If there is something that you need to be posted on the UPUA social media, you have a promotion request form, and then you can fill that in. We will process the request accordingly. I will have these forms ready and sent out to you guys via email and via Teams within the next week. But until then, if there's something you guys need done, please feel free to email me at outreach@upua.org. Going back to how we've been growing as a department, we are looking at a few new positions this year, which is the Director of First Year Outreach and the Director of UPUA Weekly. These are two things I will talk about shortly, but these are new positions, and the applications for those are open. We are accepting applications for another week or so. So if you know people who would be interested in serving in these roles, have them visit the Get Involved tab on the UPUA website, and we will process applications through that. Talking about first year outreach, we're changing plans of how first year involvement will look like this year, and we're looking to create specific positions within each department of the executive branch that will be specific for first year students, and it would give them an immersive experience as a first year student in University Park. So with that in mind, in the Department of Outreach, we have a few coordinated positions for RSO relations, and they will be responsible for working with other RSOs on campus. So if you know first year students who are interested in getting involved on an executive level with UPUA, please forward these applications to them. It's all on the website. So moving on. With the entire new plans for first year outreach, we're not only looking to do these simple positions within the department, but we will also have the Director of First Year Outreach organize crash courses of sorts, which will allow all freshmen to understand UPUA and find a fit for themselves. So this is pretty much making the first year council more accessible and not keeping it limited to applicants and selected members. Okay, moving on. I'm sure most of you know that for the past 2 years, UPUA has been doing a newsletter, but this year we will be changing that up a little bit. We will still continue with an all-encompassing updates via a newsletter, but that newsletter will be sent out to the entire student body and not just to subscribers. And along with this newsletter, we will also have weekly blogs. That will be a subscription-based thing on our website. So that's for people who want to stay more up to date with the happenings in UPUA. Okay, let's see. Okay, there's 2 more things. I promise that's all I have. But you guys must have received the email that I sent a few weeks ago about the Penn State PALS mentorship program. That's something we did the past year, and we're continuing with it this year as well. So I believe all of you here are absolutely suitable to be mentors. So please go ahead and apply to be a mentor for this, and you will be paired up with an international freshman who you can guide throughout the fall semester. Also, please share the graphics that's available for Penn State PALS, because we really need more mentors coming up, because we do have a good pool of mentees who've already applied. And finally, over the summer, we were having internal office hours, but unfortunately not a lot of you showed up, so we didn't keep that up. But I just want to put it on you guys' radar that starting next Monday, we will have internal office hours for outreach between 4:30 p.m. to 6 p.m. via Zoom. So if you guys want to discuss outreach efforts, if you guys want to discuss ideas about your initiatives and find out which RSOs you can collaborate with, we are your resource. So please show up to these office hours and use us as a resource. And one last thing, over the summer, we also did an executive town hall with President McKay and Vice President Pathical, and we intend on doing that every month starting now. And as it was discussed in the previous assembly and before summer as well, reps are encouraged to do these town halls. So if you need ideas on how to set it up and how to go about it, please feel free to drop by at our office hours or email me, and I will be more than happy to help you guys set something up. That is all. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask them right now or email them to me. Thank you.
All right, are there any questions for Executive Director Biswas? All right, if not, are there any other executive reports? If so, please raise your hand just so I can recognize you. All right, seeing none, we'll keep going. Next line item, report by the Speaker of the Assembly, Speaker Zhang.
Yeah, hi everyone, welcome back. Whether you're remote or in person, as it stands right now, I hope you guys are all doing well and are healthy. To be fully transparent, first of all, I am fully remote for this semester. I had one class that was keeping me almost like quote unquote hostage at Penn State, but I was able to switch it out with some, circumstances I had to discuss with my advisor. But yeah, first I want to really thank everyone for the discussion. I think that the deliberation is, the point of student government, and the ideas that of all students really do need to be heard. I don't think it's going to be pretty. I don't think it's fun. It usually isn't, but definitely needs to happen. I think that people should understand that there's consequences with every choice, no matter what you kind of believe in, no matter what quote unquote side you take on an issue. There's always going to be people affected on the other side. I think that a lot of it is valid. So yeah, I just want to remind people that students come first, and that it's not just the people that we meet and see every day, but also people with different viewpoints and different backgrounds and such. I 100% encourage our representatives to really reach out after this and kind of discuss through those points that we kind of talked about, that last piece of our legislation. Read through it line by line, ask for clarifications if you need them, because it does really seem like, or at least to me, feel like a lot of the points of contention, save for like one or two big ones, could really more or less be solved just by reading through the lines and kind of interpreting the meanings from them. So I think big part is also understanding exactly what the writers of legislation are meaning, as opposed to what you kind of perceive I think over the course of my experience and just through deliberation and UPUA, a lot of, I've become very aware of the lens that I kind of see the world through, and I understand that's, in no way the same as anyone else and what they're seeing. So it's really important to make sure that you're able to step outside your lens, kind of see through those other lenses. And yeah, it sucks because the world is, in a lot of gray areas, and I'd love to see something black and white. I think we all kind of use a black and white in an answer right now, but I don't think it's going to happen. I don't think anyone's going to give it to us. So it's really up to ourselves to continue that narrative. But yeah, speaking of other things, make sure you guys get those training certificates in to me by the end of this month. Y'all did have a month for it, and it does close at the last day of this month. So it's 6 hours. It isn't super long. I was able to complete it fairly quickly. But we definitely want it as a kind of like a first step to make sure everyone's on board before we continue future discussions. And just in general, it is mandated by leadership. So you will receive a strike if you don't send it to me, unless you have like some super extenuating circumstances. But then again, I did hope people kind of would get to me earlier on that. Other than that, we are, as Zach kind of mentioned earlier, we are revamping a lot of the first year council and the positions just to make sure that we have more positions available. I know in the past, the big issue was that we only, kind of had a fast track to legislative and representatives, and we kind of want to open up more. So if anyone has any ideas on, potential positions that they'd like to see representatives or I guess first year members take on, please let me know, and we can maybe include those into our grand scheme of things. I'm thinking of really directing first year students to try out new things other than just being representatives. So if you have any ideas, please let me know. Other than that, I hope everyone continues to stay healthy. I hope everyone takes away a lot from the discussions that we have. And yeah.
Are there any questions for Speaker Zong? All right, seeing none, we'll keep moving on to comments of the committee, starting with Academic Affairs with Chair Baranji.
Hi, everybody. I'm so happy that I get to hear all your arguments tonight, and I'm excited to get back into the full swing of things. My report from the summer is entirely listed in the, I forgot what it's called, but yeah, our agenda. So please review that. It's very descriptive if you want to know what I've been up to and what our committee has worked on this summer. As for my committee, please go in the teams and fill out the poll about whether we're going to be able to meet this Sunday. I'm hoping that we can have all of our committee meetings on Sunday. So please let me know if you're going to be present or not. If not, fill out the absence excuse form, and let's get back to work this year.
Are there any questions for Chair Baranji? All right, seeing none, we'll continue with oh my gosh, Chair Jordan. Sorry, I meant to say Committee on Facilities. There you go.
Hi, everyone. So good to see you all finally back kind of together. My report is also listed in the email that was sent out. It is very long too. It kind of goes through all of our summer benchmarking, what our facilities committee is up to. But for my committee, we will be meeting Sunday at 12 via Zoom. If you cannot make it, please let me or Vice Chair Gary know as soon as possible so you can avoid attendance points. But we're looking forward to seeing you all. I've missed you all, and please stay safe. Thanks.
Are there any questions for Chair Jordan? Seeing none, we'll move on to Committee on Governmental Affairs with Chair Doherty.
I believe he's not here today.
All right. I don't know if Vice Chair Risser would like to go, but I can keep moving on if so. All right, I'll keep going. So we'll do Committee on Justice and Equity with Chair Rodriguez.
Hi, everyone. Happy Wednesday. We survived yet again another long night. I'm really excited to see you guys virtually, and I'm even more excited to see some of you on Friday at 5 p.m. for a whole hour dedicated to justice and equity. Yes, I am also excited. For those that may be new to the organization and serving in whatever capacity you might be serving in, I strongly encourage you to come to our meeting. Just message me on Teams and I'd be more than willing to give you that Zoom link and to really keep you in the loop with everything that we plan to accomplish this year. Just quickly, some things that weren't mentioned in the report that was already sent out. Vice President Pathakul and I met with the president of the Indigenous People Student Association 2 weeks ago to discuss the advancement of representation for the Indigenous student population at Penn State. Moving forward, we are going to continue exploring reconciliation efforts, which will hopefully be pursued along with resolutions that can best advocate for land acknowledgement. From what we know, administration has already expressed support in helping us achieve this goal of really having university leadership acknowledge what this land originated from and the tribes that consisted of this greater area. And if anybody is willing or excited to join, let me know and I'll bring you right in. We will also be hopefully rolling out and establishing the graphics for the COVID-19 disproportionate effects on protected classes and solutions roundtable. Again, any help would be appreciated. Even if you aren't in the committee, you are more than welcome to join along with these initiatives if you ever feel so passionate about them. Really looking forward to spearheading these with you all and really getting to know you this year. Again, so great to see you, and I'll see those on my committee on Friday and hopefully some visitors. Have a great night, everyone.
Are there any questions for Chair Rodriguez? All right, seeing none, we'll move on to the Committee on Student Life with Chair Mishler.
Adeline Mishler at large. Hi, everybody. So the Student Life Committee will be meeting tomorrow at our usual 6 p.m. as of now. If you are not in the Eastern time zone, can attend this time slot, just get in touch with me personally. I'm going to take a straw poll in our teams. I'll reach out to you personally if you can't reach out to me, and we'll figure out the best course of action for you to feel very integrated into the Student Life Committee and very much a part of what we're doing. And I think flexibility is just the biggest key. We'll see what really works well for our committee, as I'm sure the other chairs are kind of monitoring, and we've been discussing that as well. But tomorrow we'll kind of just kick things off, get back into basically take a pulse check on everyone and everything that's been going on. It'll be brief and it'll be recorded if you won't be there, and we'll figure out a long-term permanent solution as well for you. Of course, my summer report is also there, and I'll go more into detail with super relevant information with the committee tomorrow to be there from you. Yeah, so stay tuned for that. Something that I also just want to reference, I know there was a lot of discussion today about remote classes and coming back and all that stuff. I'd encourage you to check out keeplearning.psu.edu, which really lays out all your options that you have as a student, and explore that website. It's kind of difficult to find, so I just wanted to throw that out there. And yeah, and I have some other comments too, but I'll toss them into comments of the good of the order. As always, reach out with questions, text, email, Teams, chat, whatever works for you.
Are there any questions for Chair Mishler? All right, seeing none, we'll now move on to comments for the good of the order. If you have something to say, please raise your hand in the participants tab. You will have 2 minutes to speak, and I will be keeping time. I will start with Representative Tierney.
Tim Tierney at large. So it is that time of year again. Yes, Lion Caucus applications are open. If you're interested in joining us, it's a really fun organization. What we do is we advocate on behalf of the university to legislators at the local, state, federal level. It's a lot of fun. We're gonna have some fun stuff this semester, all virtual, remote fun. So if you're interested, go ahead and check us out on social media at Lion Caucus. We have a pretty cool social media director. So yeah, go ahead and check that out and feel free to apply.
All right, Representative Reynolds.
I truly appreciate how intensely everybody genuinely cares about the legislation that we discussed tonight, because it is very important. And I do want to absolutely apologize if I came across as attacking somebody's bias or legitimacy. That was in no way the intent. Comment on poll was simply in the interest of scientific integrity, of making sure that we have accurate student voice input, and that's something that I think we should really, as the UPUA, be trying to seek for this issue. And so I would encourage the use of a poll and the dissemination of that poll as far and wide as we can on the university, to really hear from our constituents what it is that they think, whether or not we're not necessarily bound to it, but it would be worthwhile to at least hear that input. And I do want to say that I really appreciate the conversations here and the point that was raised by Representative Brown Sorensen. I should not have implied that there's a nearly universal consensus, because there's not a nearly universal consensus on virtually anything regarding this. And so I appreciate all of the comments and feedback and discussion, and I look forward to our further discussion of this next week. Stay healthy, everybody, and thank you so much for your time.
Representative Lascalzo.
Ryan Lascalzo, Line Pride. This comment's kind of directed at the executive branch. It's kind of a bit of like a advisory thing, because some of the comments, not comments, some of the change, I believe the executive branch is making lots of great changes, but I just want to advise that some of the changes are becoming a little bit constitutionally questionable. Some of the theoretical stuff, the president is able to create, dissolve, etc. departments as they wish, but they aren't allowed to change, take away responsibilities from departments that are constitutionally mandated, like the Department of Communications. And I just wanted to make that a comment so that we don't accidentally violate our own constitution.
All right, are there any other comments for the good of the order? All right, seeing no more hands, I believe Speaker Zong also already took closing roll call. Oh, Chair Mischler?
Yes, I'm sorry about that. One thing that I want to say, I think that our tabling was the right move, but something that we can't lose sight on is that every day and every minute counts. I know you all know this even more so than I. And also, like, the knowledge and just leadership that is coming out of this assembly is just impeccable. Like, the pieces of legislation, the language, I'm just blown away every day. But something that I do want to say is that it is so important, every single one of you in the communities that you're so heavily involved in, wherever you are, is it's time for us to start grabbing a hold of the narrative, taking every ounce of well, I know this is controversial, but trying to do everything you can in the spaces in which you are. And there is so much student positivity of oh, we're going to make the most of it. We know that so much has been taken away, but we're going to do this, we're going to do that, we're going to learn, we're going to grow, we're going to this, we're going to that. Anytime you can reach a student, anytime you can connect them to a resource, educate them on COVID guidelines, encourage them to do the right thing, to stay home, to not be with more than 10 individuals, to do anything and everything, please step up. It is your responsibility, and it is their responsibility, and it's a nasty one, but it's one that we've all been dealt with, no question. And as student leaders, we're here, we're in the thick of it, and it's not pretty, but it's something that we have to do. And the makeup and the fabric of this community depends on us. It depends on the students. This State College Borough residents, this is their home. This isn't something we can mess with. Let's put our heads together, guys. Let's get this right. Let's do what we can, but let's not go to sleep tonight and be like, all right, we'll worry about that next Wednesday night, tomorrow, and the next day, and the next day, and the next day. Every single minute, every single hour is counting. We're on the clock right now. Do what you can.
All right. Are there any other comments for the good of the order? right, seeing none, and as Speaker Zong has taken closing roll call in those last little moments, meeting has been adjourned at 10:39 p.m. Have a great night, sleep well, stay safe and healthy. Bye.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.